use that. For Jeff, you want Jeff to? No, he doesn't want to. Jeff wants to sit back.
It's sort of getting a little bit.
Bon après-midi tout le monde. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this public session of Moncton City Council to order. Welcome, everyone. Before we get started, I'd like to say a very special thank you to Dusty Tower and his tech team at the back for all the work that they put into making this possible here today. This is a historic meeting. We've never had one here, that's for sure, and we don't often take council out of council chambers. But with that, Madame la Greffière.
All public meetings of Moncton City Council are simultaneously translated. Hearing devices are available. If you have the right to address City Council in the official language of your choice. Meetings are simulcast in both languages on the City of Moncton's YouTube channel and can be found on our website at moncton.ca. If you've registered with the City Clerk's office prior to the agenda deadline, that's 7 days prior to the meeting, you will be given 5 minutes for your presentation. Other presentations will be given 2 minutes. You will receive a reminder when one meeting is remaining. No presenter shall speak disrespectfully of council, staff, or a member of the general public. The use of offensive or profane language will not be tolerated. Any breach of this guideline may result in the presenter being asked to leave the council, usually chambers, but it'll be the Lounsbury Centre, at the discretion of the chair. Service d'interprétation simultanée est offert durant nos réunions. Vous avez le droit de parler dans la langue officielle de votre choix. Les casques d'écoute sans la traduction sont disponibles. Ces réunions sont diffusées en français et en anglais sur la plateforme YouTube. Les réunions sont également diffusées sur l'Internet à moncton.ca. Si vous êtes inscrit auprès du bureau de la greffière avant la date limite, c'est-à-dire 5 jours avant la séance, vous aurez 5 minutes pour effectuer votre présentation. Toute autre présentation du public aura droit à 2 minutes. S'il vous plaît, notez, aucun présentateur ne devra manquer de respect lorsqu'il parlera du conseil d'un membre du personnel ou du grand public. Le langage consommatoire et les propos offensants ne seront pas tolérés. Le président ou la présidente pourra demander à tout présentateur qui enfreint cette décision de cette directive de quitter la salle.
Merci, Madame la Greffière. Are there any changes to today's agenda?
Yes, we have 2 2-minute presentations, Marc LeBlanc on active transportation and Robert Dugree on seniors.
Thank you. With those changes, is there someone who wishes to move the agenda? Thank you, Councillor Richard, seconded by Councillor Kingston. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Next are conflict of interest, les déclarations des conflits d'intérêts.
Est-ce qu'il y a? I do not see any. I think we're good. Thank you.
We have the adoptions of the June 3rd, 2024 regular public meeting.
Thank you. Is there someone who wishes to move that? Thank you, Councillor Butler. Is there a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Edgett. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Il y a une question de soumission à l'approbation du Conseil. Il y a une exemption à l'arrêté concernant les bruits excessifs de l'Université de Moncton le 7 septembre 2024.
Merci beaucoup. Is there someone who wishes to move the consent agenda? Thank you, Councillor Legier, seconded by Councillor Bourgeois. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
As indicated on public presentations, we have 2 2-minute public presentations. Merci. We have two public presentations. It is 2 minutes, and the first this evening is Mark LeBlanc on active transportation.
Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome.
Thank you. On behalf of Active Transportation, Moncton, the construction zone along University Avenue is an AT corridor. At the ASEC fishery site has become a danger to the AT population, people walking and on with other devices. The site is on the AT plan map. What we walk on is a 1 meter sidewalk bordered by a car lane, no boulevard, and 2 industrial-sized gates on the other edge of the sidewalk, one measuring 10 meters and a second gate measuring 15 meters. These are big industrial gates. Heavy industrial equipment with 4 sight lines is entering and exiting at an increasing rate. On the other hand, there is underused space on University Avenue on the west side, lanes that are crisscrossed out. There seems to be space available that could provide a full 4 meter wide AT lane that could be usable by walkers, wheelchairs, e-chairs, bikes, e-bikes, e-scooters, everything that we are seeing more and more of these days. Not only for the multi-year construction, but usable by the growing AT population of the area. A note, there is new pavement near and around the site, and street lines have yet to be painted. Our action requested is to discuss, and I've already picked up the discussion with Alexandre and René to a minor extent today, but our action requested is to discuss AT street allowance, repainting, parking, and the snow program with engineering and operations. Councillors, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mark.
The next presenter is Robert Dupuy on seniors.
Welcome.
Thank you, Council, for hearing what I have to say. I'm representing the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 6, and I want to talk about our seniors and what we've done since January. Our Legion is disability friendly, ground level, no stairs, automatic doors, and we also have air conditioning. We have a custodian that cleans the halls, restrooms before classes. We sanitize, we store their equipment, and we assist the setup that they need. On Monday, we have an exercise class with Jill Stiles with 31 people attending. On Tuesday morning, we have Trish Haley that has 56 registered. Evenings, we have Bertha Cormier with line dancing. She has 3 classes of 30 each, so there's 90 people. On Wednesday morning, we have an exercise class that has 32 people that come in. At noon, Bertha Cormier comes again for her last exercise class. In the afternoon, the doors open we have about 25 to 30 that come in. They're all seniors and they play 200. And we also have cards that evening. On Thursday morning, we have Tricia again with 56. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is Legion functions. That's when our bar is open. Other than that, our bar is closed. We've been supporting 345 seniors a week since January. Their comments are, it's central, it's supervised, it's clean, and we feel safe. There's a waiting list for people to come. I'm here to ask City Council to help the Legion support what we're doing. The seniors of the city will thank you. I have a copy what I did if somebody wants to read them.
Thank you very much, Robert. Are there any questions for Robert or Mark?
I do.
Go ahead, Councillor Butler.
Yeah, it's for Robert, and I believe you got an old fellow there by the name of Al with you too? Got Al Johnson there with you?
Yes, I have Al Johnson with me. It's my backup.
He's your right-hand man, right? Robert, my question is that how much is, so you've done this, I realize, you know, when we were in bad shape and they had no place to go, we had closed down, I think Heritage Court, and they started to go to your Legion number 6. So have you got a rough estimate, like how much is this costing you guys? Because I know that you, from being there, that, you know, you're on a shoestring budget all the time.
We're also on a shoestring. I asked the seniors if they would pay per class $30. It takes about an hour and a half for them to get ready and do their thing. The biggest thing is for the last 15 years, I've had seniors that come in. They are mostly well up in their years, and they use chairs and they sit down and they do exercises. When the line dancing had no place to go, they came to the Legion. Well, guess what? Seniors talk to each other. First thing in the new year, I had people come in. Why can't you do something for us? Our main hall is 50 by 40,
Yeah.
and it's a great place for the type of exercises they do. Mainly, they're happy. There's no stairs. There's automatic doors. My biggest cost is that I don't charge them rental, other than try to keep up the expenses. They use washrooms. I have a cleaner that's there that cleans, sanitize before they come in, also after. Then he has his regular Legion duties. I presented quite a while back, I think, to Councilor Legier that what would be a fair cost. And that's where I'm at.
Do you remember that fair cost?
I was hoping for about 20 some hours at $100 an hour. They pay 30 in the city. I'm asking the city if they could give 70. And, you know, like our electric costs, air conditioning,
Yeah.
when they come in, they have a place to sit down. If that would happen, I could also give our lounge that's nothing going on right now in the mornings, and they could sit down, change their shoes, have a bottle of water. I could provide that. So it's what you call taking care of our seniors is what we're trying to do. We've done it since January. The costs are creeping up. And as president, you know, people are going to ask me how come we're spending so much money.
Well, I would certainly not have a problem with having council make a motion to cover your costs. I think this is a great thing that you have done up there. You know, I know you are always open. You know, you give away money every year for educational grants, bursaries. So I think that, you know, with, you know, and we have said this even at council that, you know, the seniors would find a way where to go, and they have, and they've found a place. And, you know, and I know from being in there myself that it's a beautiful spot for them. And, you know, it's not a lot of stairs or anything like that. And the washrooms are on the same floor. So I don't know, Nick, how would we go about this? There may be, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship, through to Councillor Butler. So during the public presentations portion of the agenda, we can't allow motions. As you know, we are going to be speaking about seniors programming later on this evening. A motion could potentially be made during that item. However, I would say and to my knowledge, administration has not seen a proposal from Mr. Dupuis yet. Pardon me? Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, well, we can review that, but I don't have the information before me right now.
I would think the council Legier must have a copy of that information that you can pass forward.
Yes, I do, and it has been circulated. And I guess my question would be, was going to be what the hesitation was to sponsor, whether it's or help support, whether it's the Legion or any of the other organizations. But I will certainly make that available again. And I think what would be ideal would be that we make a decision and that funding, if we're going to go in that direction and support the Legion, for example, and there are other organizations out there who are also delivering services, that we begin to do that in August. And we do that at our meeting in August, gives staff a chance then to come back. But I guess I would say, I don't know exactly what's been happening since we had our original meeting related to the fact that we still have funding available, but yet, on the other hand, nothing has happened. And so when we had 345 seniors who are regularly being, accommodated at the Legion, I would think as well, that's the reason why many of us are not receiving any phone calls from seniors who are angry because thanks to Bob and thanks to the Legion, you fill that gap. So let's commit to doing that, and perhaps we can have a bigger discussion when the senior item comes up on council on the agenda, and if the will of council is to determine a starting amount this evening and commit to some funding this evening, that's fine, and then we can continue that moving forward. I think this is a really good example of another community organization stepping forward, and that's what we wanted to do. And so I don't see it any different than what happens at the YWCA or YMCA or the Coliseum or any of those. So
some of them we always give money to already, so with the Y and that. But Bob, if you're going to stick around, we'll be bringing it up a little bit later here or if you want to leave, you can. And one of Charles or I'll come from Bajir or I'll get a hold of you.
I'm here.
Good to have you. Just make sure Al doesn't fall asleep.
Terrific. Thank you very much for that.
Got to get used to this. The next presentation is under administration presentation. C'est une mise à jour de la GRC. L'inspecteur Jonathan White, officier responsable des opérations service de Kodiak de la GRC.
Welcome.
Hi, bonjour, everyone. How are you? Mayor, councillors, staff, and members of the public, here to present to you the report to Moncton Council. If you have any questions, I'll be open after in French or in English. So as Superintendent Gillette previously reported in previous council meetings, our crime reduction unit continues to be deployed in our downtown area to focus on open-air drug enforcement. Since we last reported to council, here are some significant files to mention. In one specific interaction on St. George on June 18th, an individual was observed consuming drugs visible to the public, and he was intercepted. During the interaction, a total of 15 glass smoking pipes were located, seized, and destroyed. The male suspect was warned about the drug use in public and referred to addiction services. In another incident on June 27th on High Street, members conducting open-air drug enforcement observed two individuals conducting a hand-to-hand exchange for drugs. The men were detained and arrested, and subsequent to this incident, a quantity of fentanyl, crystal meth, illegal prescription drugs, cash, and a replica firearm were seized. Several charges are currently pending before the courts. Several other people were checked sporadically, leading to the seizure of drugs or drug paraphernalia on 7 occasions in total. During the open-air drug enforcement patrols, the crime reduction unit was also able to locate and arrest a total of 9 individuals who were wanted on outstanding warrants or charges, including 2 men who were wanted in connection with an armed robbery which occurred at the Cannabis NB location in Riverview on June 17th. The crime reduction unit was also able to assist our partners from Nova Scotia RCMP, in locating a female in Moncton who was suspected of being trafficked in our area. The female was located in Moncton and handed over to Nova Scotia RCMP. And equally, the crime reduction unit is also actively involved in 3 other human sex trafficking investigations in the Kodiak area in partnership with our GIS section here in Kodiak. Leading into our GIS section and our major crime unit, over the last month, Kodiak RCMP has responded to a total of 11 complaints from various individuals calling themselves the Moncton Predator Watch Group. These individuals initiate contact with alleged sex offenders who target underage children for a sexual purpose. Meetings are set up, at which point suspects are confronted by the groups. Police then get a call for assistance. Kodiak RCMP do not encourage this practice due to the unpredictability of unknown suspects. However, we admire the intention of the past and the passion of residents. We'd like to remind all residents that the New Brunswick RCMP possesses a variety of specialized police services, including the Internet Child Exploitation Unit, the Major Crime Unit, General Investigation Section, and our Digital Forensic Section. So if you suspect a crime of being committed, please contact us. During this week, we deployed at each of these incidents reported by this group and arrested the alleged suspects, and we're pursuing these investigations to the extent of the law. On July 17th, Kodiak Patrol responded to a report of a stabbing, which occurred near an encampment. The victim received serious injuries. The suspect, a 35 male from Amherst, Nova Scotia, was arrested on July 19th and remanded into custody. Also, on July 7th, Kodiak Patrol Section were dispatched to the Magic Mountain Amusement Water Park, where it was alleged that a male was inappropriately touching over other people. 25-year-old male from Halifax, Nova Scotia, was located on scene and arrested. To date, a total of 12 victims have come forward regarding this incident. So we'd like to thank the public for their assistance in this file and remind others that you have not reported this incident to us. Please give us a call. The dedicated command team continues their preparations for the YQM festival later this summer in August. As mentioned in previous council meetings, this 3-day event will lead to an enormous increase in people in the Kodiak area. Our dedicated team is assessing the operations and focusing on the operations at the concert site, as well as operations throughout our area to ensure the safety of all participants who attend. In June, we had a total of 4 art employee recognition events in Kodiak. So thanks to their employees and dedicated work, take a short break and relax. Superintendent Gillette, Inspector Farah, and myself cooked food for a barbecue and served it to our dedicated staff. We also often don't take the time to thank our employees, so these events are a great way to do that. You also probably realized or noticed on online forums that one of our members, Constable Luc Picard, organized a water gun event with Unified d'Enfants Daycare on Ryan Road. Several members from our patrol members and community policing attended. Moncton Fire also attended after Constable Picard reached out to them. So over 50 children participated. The event was quite a success, and we appreciate the work and the initiative done by our members. In regards to our community policing unit, we continue to be busy in and around the Moncton area on various issues. Since we reported to council in June, we have had the opportunity to attend several community events, including the following. So community policing members participated in Touch a Truck events, one at the end of June at Edith Cavell, and the other one last week at the Wee College. Touch a Truck events are a fun educational experience for the community as it allows children and their families to interact with first responders and visit the vehicles we use to do our important work. At the end of June, community policing members had the pleasure of meeting with the youth group and their parents at Hillside Baptist Church to discuss internet safety and consent. The member presented on various topics related to the issue. At the end of June, several members of the community policing unit and others from neighboring detachments, such as Southeast RCMP, joined Sergeant Dwayne Campbell of the Vancouver Police Department on bicycles from Sussex to Moncton. The leg was part of his cross-country journey to raise awareness for Cops for Cancer. Before the end of the school year, community policing officers gave bicycle safety presentations to students in schools across the city. We reminded students of the importance of following the rules of the road when heading out for a bike ride, especially during their time off and summer vacations. And lastly, officers in Red Surge attended graduation ceremonies in Moncton, Riverview, and Dieppe. So it's something we do every year, and we are honored to be such an important rite of passage for the young people in our community. As you all know, last weekend we had the Atlantic National Street Party, which is when our community policing officers attended, were part of, and so they decided to join in on the fun. The team was out front with a police cruiser, and people could even take a peek under the hood of our vehicles. Lots of kids had the chance to sit in Safety Bear's mini police cruiser and take pictures with Safety Bear himself. This was a hit, and we had so much fun meeting with people who had traveled across the country to our great city to participate in the event. Lastly, on July 11th, we welcomed 22 young women from across the country to the Kodiak Detachment for the annual Young Women in Public Safety event. The program is aimed at building awareness of the range of careers available in public safety and security fields. So the goal is to provide female high school students with the opportunity to meet women with who occupy various positions in public safety institutions and who are effective and influential leaders. Throughout their day with us, the young women got to meet with women who occupy various positions within their Kodiak RCMP, such as dog handler, members from the crime reduction unit, dispatch, and the criminal intelligence unit as well. It's no secret that women are still outnumbered in the fields of public safety, so we hope this day inspires young women to explore career paths within the RCMP. If you have any questions, that's the end of my report. I'll gladly answer any questions you have in French or English. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Inspector White. Councillor Thériault.
Merci, Madame la maire, ça fonctionne. Merci beaucoup pour la présentation. J'aimerais vous demander de vraiment partager avec le surintendant Jolette notre reconnaissance. Et hier soir, il était présent à une réception en célébration des fêtes de la Bastille à Dieppe. Et un des invités a subi justement un malaise. Et le surintendant était calme. Il a fait son travail, s'est assuré que la personne soit bien entourée. Les services sont venus, ça n'a pas dérangé la soirée. Donc, il a fait ça avec un professionnalisme. En tout cas, dites-lui merci de notre part.
Parfait, aucun problème. Puis j'en ai entendu parler toute la journée. Donc,
bon, merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Councillor Crossman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for being here today. I've got a quick question for you, and you talked about doing the education in the school system with the kids on the bikes at the end of the year. How do we get more parents involved as well in that, and maybe our active transportation through the city of Moncton involved? Because what a lot of citizens are seeing is the parent leads the way and gives the example for the child. And I'll give you one example coming down on the weekend for buskers. You know, a parent on a bike, no helmet, two kids behind them go through a stop sign at Bosford and Church Street, and there's traffic in the area. So how do we get more awareness out there? How do we communicate that as much as active transportation is good on foot or on bike, they still have to follow the rules of the road like a pedestrian would? You can't just step off a curb and expect the vehicle to stop. So how do we get more encouragement for active transportation and support from not only the RCMP, but from Mark's group as well, and communication to work together? Thank you, Your Worship.
Great question, and I think the best way that we can do that right now is through our community policing unit. So we've held bike rallies here in Moncton at various parks and various outdoor locations, such as the Garage Initiative as well. What we can do is we can definitely look at bringing Mark's group on board and reach out, and we can probably start holding more of those events as well, especially starting probably earlier in the spring. Instead of waiting till the end of school to get on that. So that's definitely something we can look into, and I can get back to you on that. So thank you.
Councillor Leger.
Thank you for your presentation. Just a suggestion, someone mentioned to me something that they witnessed when they were in another province when it was graduation time. And at this particular graduation, there were several officers that arrived. And at first, the students really didn't know what was happening. However, they were there specifically to show them some of the effects of driving under the influence and so on. So they had goggles, the comments are that at first people didn't know, but then it became very much interactive with the policing unit that was there. And so I don't know if that's something you do, but it was certainly very well received. And you know, there was a police car there, so people got to see and sit in it. It's very similar to the things you do, but they did it specifically at graduation, probably do it during the year as well, but it was really impactful. And this was a grade 12, I guess a grade 11 graduating class in Quebec, for example.
Yeah, I've seen it done in southeastern New Brunswick with the RCMP here in JDIV. So that's definitely something I can reach into community policing and bring up to them, and we can start doing more often. So yeah. Great point. Yeah.
Okay. And just I guess as a note, the community officers are certainly making an impact. A lot of people have seen them on their bikes and out in the community, and certainly are very good ambassadors with respect to public safety. So just want to pass that along, and certainly, you know, we still have challenges, but you do certainly through that unit and really through your regular officers really do impact our safety and feeling that way in the community. And I guess my last comment is, someone was asking me the other day about compassion fatigue. And I just want to take the opportunity to sort of ask, I mean, it's clear that, you know, you're doing this day in and day out and seeing a number of the same individuals, and yet the frustrations, whether it be with the medical system, whether it be with the judicial system, is there. So are there things that initiatives that the RCMP are doing, the Kodiak's doing to sort of address that? It's the same thing that will have to happen, I'm sure, at Ambulance New Brunswick level and also for firefighters, but just your comments on that.
Yeah, my comments on that are having been a member here in Kodiak since 2015 and having worked even myself in the major crime unit for 3 years, going call to call, some weeks working almost 90 hours a week. I can tell you that it's a real issue. What I can tell you though is when we try to give members time off and when we try to make sure that we are appropriately staffed, that we have the resources so that the members, when they're on their time off, they're not asked to come in and provide overtime. So like you said, to your point with the community policing unit, when that unit was created, the calls for service on the patrol side definitely went down because there's a proactive approach going on. So what we're looking for at all times are to create proactive initiatives to reduce that workload, to get ahead of problems instead of being behind them. So that's what we're trying to do here. So, all
right. Thank you very much.
Terrific. I don't see any other questions. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Butler.
Thank you. First of all, welcome to Moncton. First time we've seen you here. So I know you said you've been going to Riverview, I take it. So it's good to see you. My question was, in our consent agenda, it says that in September 7th, the University of Moncton is going to have a concert with music and is going to be exempt from our bylaw at 11 o'clock. Do you guys still work closely with the university security? Because were you involved with this? Has anybody reached out to you as regards to patrol?
not at this time. Is it similar to the last event that we had last year at the university?
Well, I'm not sure.
Okay.
But it's open till 1 o'clock in the morning, and
Okay.
I would just maybe hope that maybe what you, and I'm sure you will beforehand, but it would be something maybe to note the touch base with their security, because I'm sure that you're going to get calls from the neighborhood for noisy party and people.
Yeah, and one of our 8, so we have 8 senior NCOs on the patrol side in Kodiak. One of them, Sergeant Joel Arsenal, has actually actively taken on the role out of his own initiative to be the major event organizer and safety coordinator for that. So I'll have him reach into that group and we'll try to get ahead of it. So
Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea. Thank you very much.
Terrific. Thank you very much, Inspector White.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Our next items are planning matters, et questions d'humanisme. The first one is an introduction of minor amendments to the approved resolution and zoning for Eastgate Village. And I believe Sarah Anderson is here to give that report.
Good afternoon. How do I get the presentation up?
Can we bring up the presentation, please?
There we go. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. All right. All right, so, this is this is an application to amend specific conditions in a previously approved resolution of council and to amend the approved zoning to accommodate some minor adjustments to the street layout and some adjustments to the location of the land for public purposes for the northern portion of PID 7057 3126, which is just phase 1 of the development. And I should have included on there, this is for Eastgate Village, which was approved 2022, and that is off of Elmwood Drive. So the application involves rezoning lands from R2 and R3 to P1, and from P1 to R1B, R2, and RM. It also involves rezoning lands from RM and R2 and R3, from R2 and R3 to RM, and from P2 to P1. A lot of rezonings. right, so the site is located in the northern part of the city and it's in Ward 1. It's north of Granite Drive and it's off of Elmwood Drive. As I mentioned, in 2022, the site was conceptually master planned and it was successfully rezoned to a mix of zones for a mixed density residential neighborhood. At this time, the landowner is looking to go forward with just phase 1, which is the northern portion of the overall site, which is shown in the hatched red color in that middle map. So through the detailed design of this phase 1, a new street layout is being proposed to create a more efficient grid network. The top left image, that shows the originally approved street layout. The phase 1 portion that we're looking at tonight is what's circled in red. On the top right, we see the proposed new street layout. As you can see in the bottom left image, the new street network doesn't really align with the current zoning layers, and so this application will fix those conflicts. The new proposed zoning is shown on the image on the right-hand side. So this revised street network also accommodates a second or an emergency access for this phase 1 as well. Generally, a street can only be constructed to a certain length before a second access is required. Originally, that northern portion of the site was proposed to build out at about the same time as the southern portion, and then the two would be connected with a public street, and they would get their second access that way, as shown in the top left image. However, as the landowner is proposing now to just focus on that phase 1, that northern section, in order to be able to fully build out that phase, a second access is needed. So the proposal at this time is to use some of the land for public purposes for a temporary period until the southern portion builds out and connects the northern portion with the public street, next to the northern portion with the public street. That proposed emergency route is shown in the top right image. So this would be an emergency access only. It would be designed and built to discourage regular vehicles from using it as any kind of access. Once that emergency access is no longer needed, the landowner will be required to reinstate the access as a public trail to the specifications of the Parks and the Engineering Department. So this was felt to be a reasonable compromise that would enable the development to build out in a phased way, and the trail would then be built and paid for by the developer rather than by the city. Additionally, after further discussion, there were some minor modifications being made to the location of that LFPP, or land for public purposes, for a more efficient trail network and a connection to the Irishtown Nature Park, which is across the street off of Elmwood Drive. So this also requires some minor adjustments to the rezoning, to the zoning layer. And the last proposed change to the zoning is due to changing of the street classification for the revised street layout. So the street classification of Street A, which is the street that's circled in the bottom left corner, that went from a local street to a collector street. And that's what's shown there. It's circled on the right-hand image. So collectors are busier streets where higher density dwellings are more ideally suited as opposed to on local streets. So in this case, the final reason for the proposed zone change is to permit townhouses to be built along both sides of Street A, rather than just the south side, which is what the original application called for. At this time, there is a need for sort of ground-oriented missing middle housing. Townhouses provide that gentle density that integrates well with the lower density housing that is located to the north. So for this reason, administration felt that it was reasonable to include a zone amendment for the northern side of Street A to permit townhouses in this location. So this application also includes a few proposed amendments to the conditions that were approved as part of the rezoning in 2022. The first one relates to the stormwater runoff. The landowner is proposing to alter the existing pond at the front of the lot and turn that into a retention pond. The proposal is to drain stormwater from the first 142 units into this pond, then to be released at a controlled rate to the ditches along the west side of Elmwood Drive. This is a change from the original requirement to drain to the east side ditches, east of Elmwood Drive, which would have created a number of negative impacts in the Irishtown Nature Park and land further down Elmwood Drive in creating new outfall locations on that side. It was felt that this was a less impactful scenario, and so it was supported by administration. So the second condition requested to be changed is about the emergency access road that we spoke about earlier. The original condition stated simply that an emergency access be created. The change to the condition would add specific details around the timing for the road and require that these details be included in a subdivision agreement. An additional condition is also being added or proposed to be added to include details around the reinstatement of that emergency access into a trail, which would also be included in that subdivision agreement. And the third requested change relates to the type of development permitted in that first phase. So due to those constraints in the current sanitary system, only 142 residential units are permitted before the sanitary system gets upgraded as part of the future upgrades to Elmwood Drive. The original condition limited those 142 units to single units, semi-detached or 2 units, and townhouses only, and specifically did not permit any multiple units to be part of that total number. But by permitting some of those 142 units within multiple unit dwellings, the development is a bit more efficient and requires less street construction as more units can be built within a smaller footprint. This was felt to be a reasonable request. And finally, one new condition as being added through this application, as the Irishtown Nature Park is located directly across Elmwood Drive from this development, and as many residents will likely be looking to cross the street by foot to get to the park, having a safe pedestrian access crossing at this location is desirable. So a new condition is being proposed that would require the landowner to put in a signalized pedestrian crossing before the construction of any more than 100 residential units. So those are the proposed changes. All of those requested amendments are reasonable. The application provides an opportunity for administration to clarify a few of the current conditions and to add a couple of new ones, including one that would trigger the requirement for that pedestrian crossing after more than 100 residential units. So at this time, in terms of a recommendation, administration recommends that Moncton City Council proceed with the zoning bylaw amendment being zoning bylaw Z 222.6.1, that council give first reading to that amendment, that a public hearing be set for August 19th, 2024, and that bylaw Z 222.6.1 be referred to the Planning Advisory Committee for their written views. And the rezoning, if approved, should be subject to an amended resolution with conditions that are listed below. So there's 18 of them or something. So I don't know if I have to go through them all, but I can if you need me to. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Terrific. Thank you, Sarah. Councillor Theriault, do you wish to move this recommendation?
No, I do have a question.
Is there someone who wishes to move it? Councillor Crossman, seconded by Councillor Bourgeois. Back to you, Councillor Theriault, for questions.
I'm not sure. Am I supposed to press the button or am I? Is it
If the
okay?
button's up, it's on. And make sure you're really close.
C'est beau, merci. Merci, Sarah, pour la présentation. Is this normal that we have so many changes on such a project?
It's becoming more normal. We're starting to see more. I mean, it's a big project. There was a mix of densities. It was done sort of conceptually. At the time, the question really was, is this land even going to be rezoned? And so those details of when you really get into looking at street construction, those really only happen after the fact, once they actually know whether or not they're permitted to do this. So this was big. There was a lot of different things associated, different zones, different things to consider. And so ideally, no, but sometimes it does happen. Yeah.
Merci, Madame la Maire.
Councillor Crossman, did you have a question?
Yes, Your Worship, I did. Sarah, thanks for the presentation. In the presentation, I know this is going to a public hearing and so on and so forth and Planning Advisory Committee. My concern becomes the fact that we're limiting the amount of doors. And I know that is 142 doors that we're talking, and I'm going to talk doors rather than actual size of buildings and so on and so forth. And the developer is tied to that number because of the fact that the province and the federal government have not come together yet to support the widening of Elmwood Drive and the necessary updates to Elmwood Drive to make sure that this project is a true success when it fully builds out. Is that what I'm under the assumption of tonight? Because I know City Council has approved funding, just before you answer, I know City Council has approved funding in the budget for our portion of that, but there's been zero response from the federal government or provincial government to make this a safe corridor for not only active transportation, but for kids in the neighborhood. There's people accessing the Irishtown Nature Park. I know I go there quite a bit. You know, why is that what we're looking at here?
The 142, there were a lot of studies. It's the capacity for the current sanitary system.
Right.
And so there just is no other option. The pipes just can't accommodate that much more. So that is what's limiting it, unfortunately.
Yeah, and unless we get the other levels of government on board,
Yes.
then we obviously can't do that infrastructure update that's going to help our housing crunch and get people into these houses and make Elmwood Drive a much safer corridor for everybody in the area coming and going. So that, I know it's going to a public hearing, and I know that I'm venting right now, but I really feel that that should be important. And the Planning Advisory Committee needs to understand that, because I can remember clearly that this was denied by the Planning Advisory Committee when it came to council, and council had to make the decision. So I just hope that when this goes back to the Planning Advisory Committee, you know, in July on the 24th, that there's, you know, a bit of a better understanding on what is exactly this project is going to detail. Because over time with the build out, you're right, we're going to have a lot of doors. We're going to have a private school there. As far as I know, that's still on the plans and that's still in the works. And as far as I just want to make sure that this goes off without any hitches, and we all understand there's two other levels of government currently that are stopping Elmwood Drive from being updated to allow this project to expand even more. So thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it. Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Bourgeois.
Merci, Madame la Maire. Merci pour la présentation. Deux questions. One is on map. I don't know what map it is, but it concerns Street D. Okay. I'm assuming that south of the lot that you're discussing today says future phase. I assume that the same owners for this development also own the southern part, which is the future phase, right?
Correct.
But west of Street D, is that also the case?
I'm trying to locate Street D, but yes. So the same owner owns the whole parcel that was identified in red. They're just looking at that phase one right now, but they do own, the same folks own the whole thing.
Yeah, otherwise it wouldn't make sense to have a street that would abut somebody else's property. Okay, perfect.
We do like connectivity, but yeah, no, that's there. They do own.
Okay. My second question is about condition number 3, and it's the stormwater runoff. What happens after the city system is built? Will we rehabilitate that condition? Or is the stormwater going to be kept, the stormwater runoff kept on site, or will it be plugged into the city infrastructure?
So the pond, from what I understand, the pond will not be plugged into the city infrastructure. After 142 units, everything else will go into the upgraded pipes and the upgraded system. So that pond will continue to act as a stormwater pond forever for those 142.
And is that what the developers want as well? Like eventually you could drain the pond, plug it into the city infrastructure and build more lots?
They do have to meet zero net. So, I mean, it's
for those 142, but
Right.
not for the rest?
for all of it. Yeah.
Okay, all right, perfect. Thank you. Merci, Madame la Maire.
Thank you. Councillor Legier.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the details. I have a question, though, on the future of the school. And there's a sign on Millennium indicating that that's the future home of Eastgate. So can you perhaps speak to, the school is still identified on this plan. That was one of the discussion points when the rezoning came before council. So what is the future then? And that seemed to be what was extremely important in making this development move forward in the first place, which extended our serviceable boundary.
That wasn't necessarily brought up during the conversation at this time. They're really just looking to get the residential homes built. But I can definitely come back at the public hearing with some more information for you.
That would be good. Thank you.
Terrific. Any other questions? On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Sarah.
Le prochain item, c'est une introduction d'une nouvelle demande de rezonage, le 4 rue Curie. And I see Mr. Bill Budd here to give the presentation.
Okay, good evening, Your Worship and Council. I'm going to do an introduction on a new rezoning. It's an application to rezone 4 Curry Street from R2U urban dwelling to R3 multiple unit dwelling. And the purpose of the rezoning is to accommodate a 3-story, 18-unit apartment building. And the applicant is Warner Properties. So this application is located in Ward 1 and falls within the Sunny Brae neighborhood area. And as you see here on the maps, project area consists of 2 properties located on the south side of Donald Avenue. The applicant is proposing to consolidate the 2 properties to accommodate the apartment building. And some of the surrounding land uses include a 4-story apartment building zoned R3 to the north, 2 8-unit apartment buildings zoned R2U to the east, the former CN Pension Center and CN rail line to the south. Here we have the site plan, and it shows the building being located on the southeast corner of the lot. The location was chosen to minimize the siting of the building in relation to the surrounding lower density housing on Donald Avenue and reduce the risk of overshadowing. The primary entrance to the building will front Curry Street. Vehicle access is planned through a 2-lane driveway entrance on Curry. The development plan includes 20 parking spaces, and there's a very detailed landscape plan, which includes planting trees around the perimeter, as well as installing a 2-meter fence around the property. And this is a visual rendering of the property. It's going to use traditional materials for the entire building. From a planning perspective, the project supports the long-term vision of Sunny Brae neighborhood by encouraging a variety of building forms. And these properties have been vacant since 1970. So it will provide much needed housing units in the neighborhood. And administration's recommending that council proceed with this by giving first reading, referring the bylaw to the Planning Advisory Committee, setting a public hearing for August 19th. And if approved, be subject to the following conditions listed here and here. So with that, I will turn it back to you, Your Worship. Okay.
Thank you very much, Bill. Is there someone who wishes to move this? Councillor Terrio, and seconded by Councillor Crossman. Back to you, Councillor Terrio, for questions.
Merci, Madame la Maire. Merci beaucoup, Bill.
And please, if you don't mind, speak as closely into it without that awful sound. But yeah, we need to pump it up there.
Scary. Anyway, Bill, this is a wonderful project. I'm just a little bit concerned because it's close to a property that is owned by a couple of artists, and they have the most beautiful garden. And I'm just wondering, how will the back of this property, will there be parking? How will this all be designed so that they don't lose what they have there?
Yeah, so there is, when you look at the site plan, there is a landscape buffer that includes sort of a 3-meter wide landscape buffer at the rear of those properties on Donald. And it'll also include a fence. There is one property that when you look at the site plan closest to Curry Street that has a secondary dwelling unit, and they have a shared, they will use the access to access their secondary unit at the back.
But we will inform the citizens, so
Yes.
this couple will know that.
There
this
will
is
be a
happening.
sign put up, and then we will send notices to all properties within 100 meters. It'll be advertised in the paper as well.
Okay,
And,
great. Merci. Merci.
Thank you. Councillor Crossman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Bill, thanks for the presentation. Just one quick question, and I wanted to ask Sarah this as well. The Planning Advisory Committee is moving to online,
Yes.
I'm assuming, and so is the public hearing. So we will share the information with the residents of Moncton if they wish to partake in these events. Is that
Yes,
correct?
they will get a notice and of the Planning Advisory Committee and Council's public hearing, and they will have instructions in the notice on how to participate. With the PAC, they're more than welcome to view the meeting online.
Okay.
Get the information. And as well, the same with council, they can register to participate, and they'll have access to all of this information.
And like Councillor Terrio said, I agree with the project. I know across the street, there's 2 buildings that went up most recently, and I'm pretty sure they're getting full to capacity once they are officially open. So this is a great project for the area, and it's a very well-known area. So thank you, Mr. Budd, for that. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Richard.
Merci, Madame la Maire. Thanks for the presentation, Bill. In your slides, the site plan was showing there was a piece missing from what we've seen in our package. There's a line where the wetlands were showing.
Yes.
Can you go into more detail there?
When I look at the site plan, it's a 30-meter wide area, wetland and watercourse buffer, and there is a wetland and watercourse close by. They went to the Department of Environment and got a WAWA approval to be able to do this. So as long as they follow their conditions, they should be okay.
Okay, perfect. No, I just want clarification on that.
Yep.
I'm all for the project. That's great. Thank you. I'll see.
Terrific. I don't see any other questions on the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The next is a public hearing rezoning application at 1187 Shediac Road, and there have been no objections received. I believe that Mr. Budd will be giving this presentation as well.
Okay, so we have a public hearing at 1187 Shediac Road, an application to rezone to accommodate a 4-unit townhouse. It's located in Ward 1 on the north side of Shediac Road. It's currently shown here, highlighted on the map on the top of the slide. Currently, there's a single unit dwelling. This is proposed to be removed, and a 4-unit townhouse located. Some of the surrounding uses include a church in the adjacent R2 zone, Harrisville Plaza Mall in the adjacent suburban commercial, Kent Building Supplies on Harrisville Boulevard. And so this shows you the site plan and the building renderings. It's an attractive townhouse. Administration's recommending that this proceed, subject to the following listed conditions here in your package. And with that, I would turn it back to you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Bill. Is the applicant or developer here, and do they wish to speak?
Yes, and they don't have anything
Okay.
to present.
Any other proponents for this development that wish to speak? No. Any objectors? I don't believe there were any objections.
No?
Nope. Are there any questions from council? Go ahead, Councillor Kingston.
Thank you, Madam Addis. Thank you, Bill, and thank you for the presentation. I live in the area, so we're all quite familiar with that area. The traffic in and out, Bill, if I didn't pick up on that, I'm sorry, that part of it, because that's a busy Shediac Road. When they leave the lights at Harrisville, they're flying up the, pardon me, not flying, we're proceeding up the hill eastward, and then you have East Street. So in and out will be consideration, obviously.
Yeah, this was, the planning staff reviewed this with the transportation engineer, and there's no issues. And from my understanding, the driveway is being shifted a bit to a better, safer location. So, but there's no concerns here.
Great. Okay, thank you, Bill. Merci, Madame Addis. Thank you.
Terrific. Any other questions? Anyone? Proponent? Objections? Go ahead, Councillor Leger.
Yeah, thank you. Just with respect to the setback from Shediac Road, what would be the distance? And I'm not sure if there's a sidewalk there at the moment.
I would have to check on that and just give 6 meters.
Yeah, that's right.
So
6 meters.
yeah.
So 6 meters. So with respect to safety, because there are no sidewalks there. So are you satisfied that that it's set back enough so that it's, because Shediac Road is quite busy?
Yeah, well, one of the things we are actually doing, and you'll notice, I believe, if you just bear with me, yeah, we have development charges. We are widening the street right away from that in Harrisville Shediac Road intersection out towards the new MID business park. And I believe we have the right of way there to accommodate the widening. And so there'll be a sidewalk on one side and a multi-purpose trail on the other, and widening the lanes there. So
is that normally, would that normally be reflected in what we're seeing here and we're approving, or is it just that?
It's already kind of part of the city's development charge bylaw and future capital infrastructure improvements.
Okay.
So,
all right. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, with that, I will declare this public hearing adjourned, and I would take a motion. Thank you, Councillor Theriault. A seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Kingston. Any questions? On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The final item under planning and matters is a public hearing rezoning application 54 Maplewood Drive, and we have received objections. I believe Mr. Budd is here again to give that presentation.
okay, so we have a public hearing at 54 Maplewood Drive. We have an application from Landrick Properties on behalf of the landowner to rezone 54 Maplewood from R2 to R3 multiple unit dwelling in order to accommodate a 3-story, 18-unit apartment building. The property is located in Ward 1, generally located between Shediac Road and the Veterans Memorial Highway. You can see the aerial views here shows that currently the property is vacant. It forms an irregular L-shaped lot. It's relatively narrow at the street and then significantly widens as the lot approaches the rear. There's a line of mature trees along the southern edge of the property abutting the highway. The applicant intends to retain these trees as part of their development, in addition to a new fence and landscape area next to the residential properties on Forest Hill Drive. The property in question is a unique situation where it falls between two zone boundaries and is currently designated R2 and R3. So the request is essentially to extend the R3 zone to the remaining portion of the property. This is a copy of the site plan. It shows the building being located in the southwest corner of the lot. And this location is chosen to minimize the siting of the building in relation to the lower density residential development on Forest Hill Drive. Apartment building will be limited to 3 stories or 8.7 meters in height, which is notably lower than the maximum allowable height of 11 meters in the neighboring R2 zones. Consideration to height ensures the apartment building remains in a scale with the surrounding residential environment and reduces the risks of overshadowing. The applicants also provided a detailed landscaping plan that demonstrates substantial conformance with the zoning bylaw. It includes a 3 to 4 meter wide landscape buffer around the perimeter of the site, as well as a 2 meter opaque fence, which will serve as a visual and physical buffer, in addition to providing overall more green space on the site. And this is a copy of the rendering, and from a planning perspective, when we think of the urban boundary, we're promoting growth within the urban boundary as opposed to urban sprawl. Public transit is close by and will support this development. There's lots of shops and amenities close by that will also support the higher density development here, making this accessible to these amenities. And the recommendation is for council to approve this, subject to the following conditions listed on the slide here and in your package. And with that, I'll turn it back to you. I do understand there were 2 objections in your package. Not sure they want to speak, but they're in your package. So,
Thank you, Bill. Is the applicant or developer here?
yeah.
Is there anything Bill missed that you would like to add? Okay, thank you. Any other proponents for the plan? No. Objectors, are they here and do they wish to speak? Do you wish to speak? No? Council did receive your objections. At this time, any members of council have any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Legier.
Yeah, thank you. With respect to the objections, would we be able to publicly state what those were? And then what is the solution that was proposed and how do the objectors feel about that solution?
So the first objection was received by Cecil and Reginald Legier, 12 Forest Hill Drive. Their primary concern was the parking lot will be in our backyard, therefore increasing the traffic by 33% and noise. And also with a 3-story, our privacy is gone. I made some comments earlier about the height. It is lower than what's allowed in the R2 zone. The topography of the land slopes down. So the building is further away. And there is a parking lot, but there's a generous landscape buffer and the fencing. So with all those things, I feel the design should mitigate some of these concerns. And there's not a lot of traffic going to be coming and going from this, at different peak times, but it should be minimal. The other objection was from Gregory Shapiro at 6 Forest Hill Drive, and it was more of a neutral, do they support or oppose, but the comments were that they wanted to discuss the fence position relative to the house level. There's a slope in our backyard which puts the house at an elevation. We'd also like to discuss the fence material and maintenance. And so those were some of the comments. But there is a condition to have a 2-meter high opaque fence, which is solid, whether it's wood, PVC, or other similar.
So were any conversations, did any conversations occur?
On this is on vacation, and I'm not sure if he did have any further discussion on that.
So a question would be, is the developer open to, and maybe with your department, taking a look at, making sure that to the best of the abilities, there comes some type of compromise without knowing all the details and
yes, most certainly. And it's not in my summary notes, but I also think there was some concern in their backyard that they had trees and did not want them to be impacted by the fence. So we could work with the developer to make sure that, it's very close, but maybe there's a way to keep those trees and when they put their fence,
Well, thank you. I think it's a great development, honestly. I think that it is really well thought out, and there is a fairly large buffer. So I think just doing those few additional, having those conversations, I think could be helpful. Overall, it's good development. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crossman. You're good? Okay. Councillor Bourgeois?
Yes.
Up. It's counterintuitive. There you go.
Coming back to Councillor Lejar's question, and I agree with the residents who are concerned that the parking is in their backyard. The way the lot is proposed, the apartment is to the west and the parking is to the east. The property next door to the north is a commercial venue, if I'm not mistaken. So it would be so more pleasant for the neighbors, both whoever is immediately to the northeast and to the east, if the two were reversed. Is there any way the parking can be put to the west side, closer to another commercial development, and the apartment building be to the east side, minimizing the impact on the neighborhood?
I would say from a planning perspective, the planning staff probably took that into consideration and are recommending this is the best layout. So I would not propose a change, but if council wants to make a change or consider it, I would say to table this matter and postpone the public hearing to another date so we can have this matter look. But I wouldn't recommend it. I think this is the best layout for this property.
Well, it is for the developer. I get it. But for the neighborhood.
Well, the screening and the trees will mitigate the location of there's a large landscape buffer. The trees being planted, the fence will mitigate issues of the parking in this location.
But the trees can stay there with the apartment to the east.
There's new trees being planted here. Okay, so.
Doesn't matter. Anyways. Okay, so I will move. We'll see what council says. That we table this and explore the possibility with the developer to flip the parking lot from the east side to the west and the apartment from the west side to the east.
Is there a seconder to table? I don't see one. Oh, I do see one. What is the date on that? I'm asking the mover, do you have a date on when you're tabling this too?
Depends on when the
next council
developer, next council meeting.
Is there, okay, on the motion to table, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Motion fails to table. Bill, maybe on that to provide, are you saying that the urban planner that worked on this is on vacation? Is that what?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I would think just looking at
Building, we can still talk about this, but if you had the building on that east side, you'd have a 3-story building really close to those residences.
Yes, Sarah, could you speak into the microphone? And I think your point has been brought up with some of the residents that they don't want people on the 3rd story looking into their homes like that.
Yeah, with the parking lot there, at least you get more space between those windows at a 3rd story and, people's backyards.
All right. Any other questions from council? Go ahead, Councillor Crossman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Budd, just so I'm clear, I grew up in the area. I know the area extremely well. We're talking about that development that you want to put there, the city developer wants to put there, backs onto a current apartment building, not onto the backyard of somebody's lot. Is
That's
that correct?
Yeah.
I want to make sure that council and the people understand that this would be, and I think the building that's there now is a 2-story.
I'm not 100% sure, but it's a large building.
Yeah, so they'd be back to back with some sort of buffer in between the two on another apartment building, leaving the parking lot at the back end of somebody's lot.
In a landscape area and then with trees and fence.
Within the developer's PID, not in the backyard of the resident. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak at this time? Anyone at all? I see no one, so I will declare this public hearing adjourned, and I will take a motion from council to move the recommendation. Thank you, Councillor LeBlanc and Councillor Crossman. Did I see your hand? Seconded. Any questions? On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Good night.
The next items is councillor statements, les exposés des membres du conseil.
Go ahead, Councillor Bourgeois.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Maire. I just wanted to thank staff for organizing or reorganizing council meeting and adapting. It is because of the public hearings that we just had that we must make all the efforts possible to be as democratic as possible, and doing it virtually probably eliminated the possibility for some people to attend as they're leaving. But at least we owed it to the public to be as transparent and open as possible. So thank you very much for the staff who put in a lot of hours rearranging our meeting location and all the effort involved. Merci, Madame la Maire.
Thank you. I see nobody else. Let's move on.
Next is les rapports, les recommandations des comités et réunions à huis clos, et reports and recommendations from committee and private meetings. And the first is a recommendation from a private meeting of Moncton City Council, September 13th, 2021. Moncton City Council at its private meeting of September 13th, 2021 reports the agenda for the private meeting of September 13th, 2021 was adopted and recommends the following. That Moncton City Council authorize and direct administration to negotiate the acquisition of trail easements with the property owners of PIDs 00998880, 00998898, 70426341, 70628953, and 70370408 to the amount authorized by council as supported by the appraisal, and to authorize administration to prepare easement agreements with each property owner upon successful negotiation, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute all documents necessary to give effect to the required easement and to affix the corporate seal of the City of Moncton thereto. The background on this is Humphrey Brooks Trail, which runs from Louisville Road to Harrisville Boulevard, constructed in the early 2000s as part of the Millennium Trail Project, is a subject of upgrades for slope stabilization and necessary improvements. Negotiations have been concluded with the landowners, and the city requires council's approval to have the easements finalized for registration to carry out these upgrades, and in future to ensure the integrity of this important part of the trail network.
Terrific. Is there someone who wishes to move this recommendation? Thank you, Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Kingston. Any questions on the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The next item is coming out of the Committee of the Whole recommendation of the Committee of the Whole of July 15th, 2024. Moncton City Council at its Committee of the Whole meeting of June 24th, 2024 is recommending the following: that Moncton City Council approve the proposed changes to the City of Moncton's corporate procurement policy dated June 2024. And I believe there may be a PowerPoint presentation for this.
I don't believe there is, actually.
Is there, Jacques? Is there a PowerPoint?
There is?
Yes.
Okay, Jacques is saying yes.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council, and Tanya is online as well, that will be doing the presentation. Thank you.
Tanya, the floor is yours. If you're speaking, we cannot hear you.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. If we have technical difficulties, I can do it quickly too as well.
Tanya, can we hear you? Are you speaking? I mean, we cannot hear you, but we're just wondering if you're speaking. Looks like it's not working. Maybe Jacques, you could take us through it quickly?
Yes, absolutely.
I apologize. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
there you are. You're great. Okay, we can hear you, Tanya. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. The technical difficulties were on my end. It was absolutely nothing on your end. So essentially, we are looking to update our corporate procurement policy. It has not been updated since 2018, and we require a number of revisions to it to align it with the current New Brunswick Procurement Act that has recently been amended a few times by the province of New Brunswick, and which we are bound to. Is someone able to move the slide for me? Thank you. You can probably move to the next slide as well. Thank you. Also, one of the main reasons why we're looking to update our current policy is that the dollar thresholds outlined in our 2018 policy do not reflect the reality of or the cost of goods and services that the City of Moncton requires on a daily basis today. And we also are looking to reduce the number of routine items that are brought forward to Moncton City Council for items that are approved as part of the city's annual budgeting process. And as I previously mentioned, we are looking to also incorporate changes in the Procurement Act into our policy as well. And go to the next slide. I don't think there's, with our reduction in eliminating items brought forward to council, we will be able to expedite the timeliness of our tender awards and our project start dates as well. And also our approval limits will align better with current market costs. If you can go to the next slide. The major changes in the New Brunswick Procurement Act are that goods and services exceeding $133,800 now are required to be publicly tendered. The thresholds were much lower prior to that. And that any construction projects exceeding $334,400 must also be publicly tendered. These are the proposed revisions to the approval authority that exists within different positions in the organization. The first is to increase our purchasing card single transaction limit for all cardholders from $4,000 to $5,000. That would be applied unilaterally across the corporation. Increasing the approval limits for managers, directors, and general managers by a little bit. And the major change is to the approval limits of the CAO for projects using operational funds and projects using capital funds as listed there. In establishing these recommended limits, I consulted with some similar municipalities in the area, such as the city of Fredericton. St. John actually just very recently increased their approval limits for their CAO to the limits that are indicated in the slide. They basically adopted the same limits that we adopted in 2018. Halifax and Red Deer have unlimited approvals for their CAO for any budgeted projects. This slide essentially is addressing the approval limit of the CAO for items or expenditures that are not budgeted or would result in a procurement or an expenditure that would exceed a department's operating budget that was approved in their budget for their department or for a specific project. So we're looking to essentially increase his limit from $25,000 up to a maximum of $40,000. Anything over $40,000, which would result in an over expenditure or an unbudgeted item, would be brought forward to council as it is the same mechanism as it is today. You can switch to the next slide. Thank you. As it's indicated here, council will continue to receive regular updates from the CFO, and the purchasing acquisition report will also continue to be provided to city council to reflect all of the expenditures approved by the CAO under his new thresholds that we are proposing today. And I believe that is the last slide. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you very much, Tanya. Is there someone who wishes to move this policy? Thank you, Councillor Theriault, seconded by Councillor Steeves. Any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Bourgeois.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Maire. Monsieur Doucette, probablement, je pose la question, sinon quelqu'un d'autre me répondra. De quelle façon le public va-t-il être informé de ces dépenses-là?
Oui, merci, conseiller Bourgeois. Donc, lorsque je présente les états financiers, je les présente 5 fois par année maintenant, on a un rapport qui est inclus dans les états financiers à la fin et on voit tous les projets qui ont été approuvés.
Y compris les dépenses dont on mentionne aujourd'hui, là, sous la norme.
Exactement.
OK, parfait. Merci. Merci, Madame la Maire.
Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions? I see no other questions on the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The next item under this section is recommendations to the private meeting of Moncton City Council of July 8th, 2024. Moncton City Council at its private meeting of July 8th, 2024 reports that the agenda for the private meeting of July 8th, 2024 was adopted and recommends the following. That Moncton City Council agreed to contribute $620,000 for the city's contribution of the Marriott Drive roundabout. The background on this is as part of the Marriott Drive Development Charge Area Study approved by City Council in 2023, a roundabout on Marriott Drive was identified as a benefit to existing and future developments. Such a roundabout would accommodate anticipated traffic generated from the surrounding areas at full build-out. Marriott Drive will serve as a collector with its extension to Warner Street and Camelot Drive, increasing development potential in the area. The roundabout will also provide a gateway feature as well as reduce greenhouse gases with less idling, roundabouts have the added benefit of decreasing speeds and improving safety. The developer, Advanced Hospitality, Inc., is prepared to manage the construction of the roundabout to allow the progress of proposed development work. Based on the estimated cost and development charge area study, the developer would contribute approximately $100,000 towards this infrastructure, and the city would contribute the balance of $620,000. Other benefiting landowners will contribute to this infrastructure when they apply for building permits, thus resulting in reducing the overall city expenditure towards this infrastructure. Although the timeline for recovery is unknown at this time, it is estimated the city will recover up to $520,000 of its total contribution of $620,000.
Terrific. Thank you. Is there someone who wishes to move this recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Leger, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Crossman.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not sure who to ask the question to. I'm assuming it might be, is there any engineering staff in the room? Elaine? Okay, good. All right, I'll ask the question. We're talking about a traffic circle on Marriott Drive connecting to Warner, and we know the challenges within the Camelot currently for construction, development, and how quickly it's growing. So what is the time frame on this traffic circle on Marriott Drive connecting to the new road of Warner that we have been talking about for a number of years to make sure that we no longer have construction vehicles going through an older part of Camelot Drive, the speeding factor, the dirt, I'm going to call it, I don't know what else to call it, that's currently going on within Camelot Drive.
Thank you, Worship, through to Councillor Crossman. Right now, the contractor, or the developer, I should say, is ready to move along, but he's waiting for a few steps on the approval from a subdivision development point of view. So you will be seeing some development plans coming to PAC first, PAC, and then to council in the short term. The intent is to have the construction of that roundabout and the street extension be done this year by the end of 2024. And by the time that we see some actual, that the public can actually use it, will be a different time frame.
Right.
The goal is to have the construction traffic use Marriott Drive, and I should say coming from Harrisville instead of Camelot Drive in that neighborhood. And that's what we intend to do during the construction of the area, that roundabout, and the extension of the street.
Okay, so when those dates do become nailed down with the PAC and, going forward, can you share that with the ward councillors and the at-large councillors? Because we are contacted, as you know, Renee, constantly from people within the Camelot area. And we just want to make sure that there's communication going back and forth so that they do understand that. And I was under the impression that the Warner Drive would be for construction vehicles only so that he can build it out, because there's been a lot of changes in the area, clear cutting and development planning in the area. So I want to make sure that we communicate that with the residents of the area, because they've been extremely patient. And you've provided great information up to now. We put in a four-way stop and things along this line to improve it, but I just want to make sure we communicate that with them so that they're on board as well.
For sure, we'll work with our planning and development counterparts and
great. Thank you, Your Worship.
That.
Thank you, Renee.
Thank you. Any other questions on the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The second recommendation out of that meeting is that Moncton City Council authorize the city to enter into a new formal 5-year contract with People for Animal Wellbeing, with an option for either party to terminate on a 6 months prior written notice for the continued provision of animal shelter and control services, and that the mayor and the city clerk be authorized to execute all necessary documents and to affix the corporate seal thereto. The background on this is currently the City of Moncton uses the services of People for Animal Wellbeing, PAW, to aid in the enforcement of bylaw H202, City of Moncton Animal Control Bylaw. This involves capturing and impounding stray animals, investigating dog bite complaints, providing expert testimony in court cases, writing incident reports, providing humane care to animals under their supervision, daily patrols of parks and trails, after-hour emergency response, and the public education on responsible pet ownership. The proposed contract with PAW will continue to aid the city's bylaw enforcement division, who conducts reviews and investigations. In addition to providing the above noted services, they offer animal shelter services for all impounded animals and shelter services for Greater Moncton.
Thank you. Is there someone who wishes to move this recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Butler. Seconded by Councillor Steves. Any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Leger.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I'm concerned mainly because we were presented with some figures comparing ourselves to other municipalities. And I find that the cost per capita is quite high. And so I know that we don't have a lot of options. However, I would wonder why we would immediately enter into a 5-year contract when we could enter into a 1-year contract with the possibility of renewal to the term to up to 5 years, but then give council the opportunity to have data from that 1 year that indicates, is it working the way that we're projecting it's going to work? The accountability piece. There's a lot related to court cases, to evidence and so on. And as much as I trust that this could be a very beneficial partnership, I would have preferred that we could look at this, particularly because the cost is much higher than other municipalities. So I don't know if someone can comment on that. And I don't know if it's just an amendment to say that in principle is 5 years, but after year 1, we review it and we see what it is indeed that we have signed up for.
Greg, go ahead.
Thank you, through your worship, to Councillor Leger. Just a couple comments. One on the cost per capita. When you look at the adjusted cost of the contract, it brings it in line with cities like Waterloo, Coquitlam, things like that, around $4.50 per capita. So the original spreadsheet showed, at the cost we're paying now was $8.21. When you calculate the new cost, it's actually only about $4.50 in that range, which is in line with those other communities. With respect to the 1-year term, we do have a 6-month opt-out in that contract. So as we look and see, one of the important factors in the contract is a service level, make sure the service levels are monitored and maintained. And as we move along with that, that's something that's going to be adhered to and managed between bylaw, and I think we'll look at a neutral individual within the organization to help make sure that moves along. So in response to your comments, I think the 5-year gives some stability also to both parties, but we'd still always have that 6-month opt-out that we could use if we see that services aren't rendered the way we'd like them to be.
Well, thank you. Well, it's certainly new information to me because we were looking at a cost per capita of $8.21. And so now you're indicating that it's more in the line of Waterloo, which is $4.38. So it would be, first of all, nice to get an update. And secondly, what has brought the cost down by $4 per capita?
Again, keep in mind, the cost was on that spreadsheet. It was the cost that we have been paying in 2021, 22, 23, the $665,000. Was what that to show that difference, and that sheet was put for council to review. Now we could have updated when you look.
So beginning this year, for the next 5 years, we will be paying approximately $4.30 per capita.
I'll do the exact $4.50. I'll do the exact
or $4.50
in that range. Correct. Yeah.
That is helpful information. And the 6 months, what are the checks and balances that will happen between now and 6 months from now, so that is the plan to bring an update to council on now we're reaching our 6-month point, which I think is rather short myself. That's why I thought a year would be better.
It wasn't 6 months. It's basically we have notice to give notice, a 6-month notice. So if we find that things are not working well, that the services are not being rendered the way we'd like, the service levels aren't meeting the requirements, there is a notice period of 6 months.
At any time.
At any time.
At any time. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Councillor Crossman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Greg, I'm not sure this question is directed at you, but maybe you can answer it for me. And I remember this situation that came up when council had this discussion. Were we not looking at putting these services in-house? Because I think council was under the impression that these were going to be in-house services at the time when we debated this a number of years ago. Is that correct?
There was two components. There's the bylaw enforcement, and there's the animal shelter. There was efforts to look at the animal shelter to basically to look to see, could we do animal shelter? And at the current time, through what we put out as potential options, those options probably weren't viable, certainly for the cost that we like to pay, similar to this cost. Also, we're looking at the difference between, there's only a small difference between shelter only from PAW and plus bylaw. So felt it was a whole all-in-one package with enforcement and shelter is the best way to go at this point in time. But administration had, based on council's previous request, had looked at opportunities to do, but looking at difference between vets and other organizations to do this work, it wasn't feasible or cost effective at that time. And, that's some of the things we found as we went along.
Okay, I thought that was the impression that it was going to all come in-house at one point, and that was the direction that was given. So I just want to make sure that we're clear on this.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship.
All right, on the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Greg.
The final item coming out of this meeting would be further to an agreement of purchase and sale between the City of Moncton and Galco Atlantic Investments Network Limited, dated January 16, 2017, containing an option to purchase undeveloped land located at Robinson Street and bearing PID 70628276, which option agreement has been amended, and it is recommended that Moncton City Council authorize and direct the city to repurchase PID 70628276 from Galco Atlantic Investments Network Limited per the terms of amendment to option to purchase of February 8th, 2023, and notice of intent to exercise option of May 30th, 2024, and that the mayor and the city clerk be authorized to execute all necessary documents to give effect to the purchase transaction and to affix the corporate seal of the City of Moncton thereto. The background on this is in October 2016, the City of Moncton entered into a purchase and sale agreement with Galco Atlantic Investments Network Limited, Galco, which provided for a land exchange that saw the city acquire a portion of the land adjacent to Castle Manor and Galco acquiring PID 70628276 at Robinson Seymour Street subject project. As a condition to the land swap, the city retained the option to repurchase the subject property for $1 million, being the approximate appraised value at the time. In the event that Galco did not meet certain development conditions, including but not limited to completion of development within 5 years of the closing date. The original agreement was amended to extend development conditions 3 times. However, for various reasons, the land still remains undeveloped. As a result, the city has decided to exercise its right to repurchase the property.
Thank you. Is there someone who wishes to move this recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Butler, seconded by Councillor Edgett. Any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Crossman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Who do I direct my question to?
Just ask the question.
Yeah, okay, good, perfect. All right, I'm a little concerned on this portion of lot that was available for development for a number of years, and Magma, the growth of their, I guess, of their business and their clientele. I'd like to know why we're sitting on a piece of land that could be developed according to Magma for some sort of campus vision, as well as to support the immigration population within the City of Moncton, and we've seen absolutely no movement on it. But at this point in time, now all of a sudden we're discussing, the lack of involvement or development by a developer. So I'd like to know where we go from here. Are we just going to end up taking this piece of land back and then have another developer sit on it and wait and wait and wait and wait when our immigration continues to grow? According to Magma, there's 47 programs that they offer in their current location, and I'm thinking housing would be ideal for Magma. So I'd like to know who can answer that question or where we go from here. Thank you, Your Worship.
Go ahead, Elaine.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Crossman. It is if council does decide that the city repurchases the property, it is something that we can consider when working on an RFP for the resale of the land, to have discussions with Magma and potentially future use of this property as redevelopment for them. But we haven't had that discussion yet with Magma, but we can certainly explore those options.
Is there a reason why we did not have those discussions with Magma prior to coming to council in private and in today's public session?
Well, I think this decision needs to be made first. Currently, the property is owned by Galco, as council is aware. So it would have been, those discussions would have been between Galco and Magma up to this point, if any had occurred.
Okay, between them. Okay, I'm a little concerned that I'd like to know the time frame, the reason why it hasn't been developed in 6 years. What's the restrictions, the reasoning for maybe no communication? And I want to use that word, no communication, with Magma to put up a development, to get the two partners working. I don't know how I can address that today, because obviously you're telling me that Magma has had discussions with Gelco, but Gelco can't come to the mic, or Magma can't come to the mic to answer my questions. Is that?
Currently, Councillor Crossman, our discussions have been with Galco, who have indicated that they can't meet the current development conditions set on this land. And they did mention that they intend to have discussions with Galco, but there's no timeline. They can't meet the current timeline, and there's no set parameters around that. So it's
that's too bad, knowing that our population is growing and continues to grow, and to know the immigration numbers that are forecasted for the province of New Brunswick, but the city of Moncton specifically. So I'm really saddened to hear that, but thanks for answering my question. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any other questions, Councillor Legier?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Elaine. I think just for clarification, though, I mean, we look back to 2016, and it was difficult, and the land swap occurred. We did, though, however, as council, extend this several times. And I think if indeed there are viable developments, we've always, as a city, played our role as a partner. And I think if there was a clear plan with respect to whether it's a request for proposal for that property and for development, I think it puts us in a position, probably a stronger position. And I think that for that reason, I feel that this is the right move, and we will open up other opportunities. And it certainly does not stop Galco from, for example, putting in a proposal for a property that is there. And after all, there is $1 million check that will be issued for this property. So I think that's sort of the context. It for sure has opened up a discussion in the community, and so I think those things are positive, and we'll see where all of this brings us. Very similar to the discussions that we had when we didn't know what we were going to do with the property across the street here, and the Hyatt came through with a wonderful proposal. So I think that we have those opportunities, and I think we are, and we've demonstrated as a city and as council that we want to work with developers. So in that regard, that's I think why I feel that this is the right thing to do at the right time, at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? 2 nay votes, Councillor Thériault and Councillor Crossman. Motion passes.
The next item is reports from administration, les rapports de l'administration. The first this evening is an update on seniors, and it's being provided by Monica Tucker, Manager of Recreation.
Welcome, Monica.
Administration would like to provide City Council an update for the senior programming file. As many of you know, Moncton Lions Community Center sees all programs December of 2023, with most instructors have relocated their class to alternate venue across the city. You can find them at the Kay Crossman Community Center, Curl Moncton, Royal Canadian Legion Branch 6. I know they're here today. The recreation staff works with many community partners to offer as many recreation programs around the city as possible. This would include senior programming. We have we have over 10 community partners offering senior programming in the city at the moment. We also reintroduced in partnership with the YMCA the Primetime Aquatic Fitness for non-member at $3. This stopped during COVID, but we reintroduced this last year. June was Parks and Recreation Month. Recreation staff partnered with Centennial Outdoor Center, Lawn Bowling, and Tennis Moncton to provide some senior-specific programming, which was very successful. We do acknowledge that there remain gaps in recreation services for seniors, especially when it comes to social activities. I wanted to take a few minutes to highlight some of the City of Moncton initiative that has happened in the past or new initiatives that are happening now. The Senior Advisory Committee was formed in 2004. The Recreation Master Plan Phase 2 that was accepted in 2023 provides guidelines and best practices for senior programming moving forward. We also have dedicated hours for seniors only at the walking track at the Kay Crossman Community Center. We also have dedicated hours for senior skating. We've also purchased 2 adult skating aids at the Kay Crossman Community Center. We also, in the last few years, we've worked with the Seniors Advisory Committee and the recreation staff on providing senior-friendly trails. So we've added benches at every 300 meters. We've added washrooms. We have also added some signage to help seniors feel safer in our trails. This year at the Easton Pool, we've added a senior aquatic class on Tuesday mornings. We also will be introducing, starting next week, a seniors swim hour. After the aquatic class on Tuesday, seniors will be able to have a time just for them that they can swim. We've gotten the requests this week about seniors wanting to have time to go where it would be less busy. So it was easy to implement on our side of. One of the major feedback we received from seniors was that they didn't know where to find information on what's happening for seniors. So the recreation staff, in partnership with the communication department, have worked at providing a dedicated page on the city website where you can find information on seniors. If you are still receiving your water bill in paper copy, you will see on the screen there, you see an insert which is mainly focused on recreation and seniors programming. So you'll find that in your with your water bill. We also use social media as well. Even though the city is offering some senior programming and have great community partners, we do acknowledge that there are some gaps and that we could be doing better. You'll see in the recommendation in the CRF that the city's recreation staff is proposing adding additional resource by adding a new community development officer, plus programming budget for 2025. We hope to have council support on this request. Questions?
Terrific. Thank you, Monica. I'm not sure who's first here. Councillor Leger, did you wish to move this recommendation? Sorry, I didn't catch who was first. Was it Councillor Bourgeois? Were you first? Go ahead. Moved by Councillor Bourgeois. Is there a seconder for it? Councillor Leger. Councillor Bourgeois, the floor is yours.
Oh, I can't.
OK. Merci beaucoup, Madame la Maire. Merci pour la présentation. j'ai pas de problème avec l'embauche d'une personne. Mais si on fait la chronologie, on va avoir le budget approuvé au mois de novembre. Puis, disons qu'on accepte le budget 100 000 pièces pour une personne. Par le temps que l'employé sera embauché, on parle de 3 mois minimum. Par le temps qu'on fasse l'annonce, la personne sera embauchée. Personne qui arrive comme un cheveu sur la soupe avec tout ce qu'il y a sur son assiette, consulter les groupes, là, tu tombes quasiment dans l'été. Ça fait, il n'y aura probablement pas de, je dirais pas de programmation, parce qu'il y a en masse de programmation qui existe, mais le gros bobo dans tout ceci, ça a été essentiellement l'élimination du Lions Center comme centre. Ça, on n'en parle pas plus qu'il faut. C'est plutôt de la programmation d'activités. Puis, je vois le futur à long terme, puis je dis, je crois qu'on est sur la bonne piste. Je crois qu'on s'en va dans la bonne direction. Mais, première question. Qu'est-ce qui va arriver d'ici dans 1 an, au mois de juillet l'année prochaine, par le temps que la personne soit familiarisée, rencontrer les groupes et établir une sorte de plan pour qu'est-ce que cette personne-là va faire, etc. Qu'est-ce qu'on va faire entre juillet 24 puis juillet 25?
C'est sûr que ça va prendre un peu de temps, comme tu as mentionné, le processus d'embaucher quelqu'un, puis de créer des relations, puis avoir nos short-term, long-term goals. Mais c'est sûr que si on commence pas en quelque part, il va rien avoir fait. Donc, moi, je pense que même tout de suite, on essaie le plus qu'on peut. Si il y a des petites choses qu'on peut faire, comme short-term, comme j'ai mentionné, le East End, quelqu'un nous a appelé, est-ce qu'on pourrait avoir des sessions de pour seniors facile? On peut faire ça. Mais c'est sûr qu'on n'a pas de budget alloqué pour 2024. Donc, notre budget est un peu limité. C'est sûr qu'on a des budgets de programmation, donc on peut jouer un peu. Mais on n'a pas de budget pour 2024 pour les années.
Je croyais, corrige-moi, mais je croyais qu'on avait approuvé 150 000 piastres pour des activités pour les aînés.
Oui,
le budget?
Mais c'était pour le Moncton Lions Community Center.
C'était pour, pardon?
C'était pour le Moncton Lions Community Center.
OK. Puis est-ce que ces sommes-là ont été dépensées?
Non.
Alors, on a l'argent.
Veux-tu le faire?
À Conseil Bourgeois, oui, l'argent encore dans notre budget.
OK.
Je suis pas certain sur ce qu'est la balance, si qu'on a dépensé ou pas cette année, mais le montant qu'on donnait auparavant pour le Lions, on l'a laissé dans notre budget pour la programmation de cette année.
Et est-ce que cet argent-là est étiqueté pour le Lions ou est-ce qu'on pourrait le dépenser ailleurs suivant la discussion qui s'est produite plus tôt en soirée, qu'on pourrait aider le Legion, par exemple?
Non, on pourrait le dépenser sur des seniors.
OK. Je vais finir là-dessus en disant, je suis d'accord avec les recommandations, mais frustré, puis je blâme personne. Je vais être certain que je blâme pas personne. Je connais les détails, puis on a eu plusieurs discussions en privé qu'on n'a jamais revenu en public avant aujourd'hui. Ça fait 6 mois. Comme moi, conseiller, j'attends. Je ne peux pas blâmer personne. Mais on a des personnes, des aînés, qui nous demandaient où est-ce que vous êtes rendu? Où est-ce que vous êtes rendu? Puis je ne savais pas quoi répondre. Puis, comme je dis, je ne blâme pas personne, mais il y a quelque chose qui s'est produit vraiment l'automne passé et aujourd'hui, ou dans la préparation de ce que vous nous présentez aujourd'hui. Ça me semble que c'est trop longtemps. Il y a quelque chose qui a boité, qui a échappé, on ne devrait pas être rendu là, on aurait dû être rendu là au mois de mars, au plus tard, si pas au mois de janvier. Ça fait, je vous laisse ma frustration, ma déception, mais je reflète ce que plusieurs aînés m'ont dit. Et j'espère que peut-être il y aura une résolution pour commencer quelque chose, boucher les trous dès cet automne, dès cet été, automne et hiver, et par le temps que l'employé rentre puis ait son plan d'action, hit the ground running, comme on dit, mais au moins, il y aura quelque chose qui aura été fait d'ici ce temps-là. C'est ça que je souhaite. Merci, Madame la maire.
Thank you. As the seconder, Councillor Leger, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I'm not as understanding, perhaps. I have a hard time trying to figure out what has happened over the last 6 months. So I guess my first question is there a reluctance to have approached other organizations that were delivering services to seniors and partnered with them?
For 2024?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
For 2024, you mean?
For 2024, yes.
I think it was a little hard because even though the Moncton Lions Community Center had ceased all programming operate, they were still meeting as a board on a monthly basis. So we really didn't want to come to council and ask to spend some funds that they were working on maybe on a solution, right? If they came back in 3 months in January and they had worked and they had a plan, we really didn't want to have already spent all the funds, right? Now we do know that they are dissolving, and I think we are in a position to talk about using those funds and partnering with groups. And also we had a lot of groups come to us, which was great. And then it was, how do we want to divide that? But we really didn't feel comfortable in the beginning when the board was still meeting on a regular basis.
Okay, that helps explain a little bit. It would have been nice for us to know that. And so I understand there are other organizations, because I've met with a couple of other groups who are interested. And I think that, what I would like to see this evening then is that we finally begin to fund organizations that are delivering for seniors. I went and took a look at the City of Moncton website, and I went to the seniors page, and my comment would be that it's pretty weak. And so it would be good to be able to update. For example, I brought it up a few minutes ago. So, just as an example, I go to Curl Moncton. It says open practice and adult leagues play throughout the week. Please reach out directly for more information. I go to Tennis Moncton. For questions, please reach out for directions. Pickleball, it's a year-round facility. For more information, reach out directly. It should be really, what is it that's being delivered at all of those, and when do those events occur, and so on. And I hope that we can incorporate, for example, what the Legion is doing, maybe what Sant Aberdeen wants to do, and there are others. And I think predominantly it's about having activities in a variety of different venues that are comfortable to meet the needs of seniors for where they are. And so a lot of activities that happen at the YMCA are great activities, but some seniors who have mobility issues may not necessarily want to be in and around such a number of people. And so that's why a lot of people have gravitated to the Legion, for example, because they feel comfortable. They feel, and I just use that as an example. I think, though, we can go a little bit further. On a besoin, par exemple, des activités francophones. C'est pour cette raison-là que je pense le Sant Aberdeen, ces choses-là, on peut certainement se pencher sur comment livrer les services. Donc, j'espère qu'on va y arriver. But I must say that has been the biggest disappointment. And I have a clear understanding of your hesitation to come before council because you didn't know that what was going to happen, but that now that the Lions Center is dissolving, then we can move forward with planning.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'll just comment on why certain organizations are on our website for seniors and why certain others aren't. The Royal Canadian Legion, we currently don't have a partnership with, and that's why. So we would classify it as a private. That's why it's not on our website. But if we were to create a partnership, they would be on our website too. And the other reason why we don't put all the information, like you said, Curl Moncton, and we make them reach out, is that it takes a lot of resource for communication to make sure that that's updated every day and making sure that they're still offering those programs. So it's a little bit easier to push for them to contact, instead of us calling, let's say, every few weeks or a month, because depending on season, to make sure that it's still updated.
And I understand that, and I understand that if someone's a partner, then they're on the site, but we also corporately, don't we have as a city, can we not find a way to highlight those organizations? There are organizations out there who may not necessarily need our support, but if they're developing programs for seniors, we should have some way of being able to help them even in the dissemination of their information and communication. So I would just leave it at that, and I do appreciate the extra information. It's been helpful. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you. Councillor Kingston. I had Councillor Kingston, then Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Madame Mattis. And I think it's a very positive seniors update. We can all certainly look back in the past, and you identified gaps, Monica, which is a good way to put it. And we all wore the gaps, city staff, administration, and council. Great move forward. Nice to know today that officially that holding back the $130K per year for alternate solutions can be applied to the Legion and other service providers in the Greater Moncton area. The website link, I think, is great for the city partnering recreation programs. More printed material I couldn't advocate enough of. I know we all have computers. I'm a senior as well, quite engaged, but our newspaper now thrice weekly, and the odd ad in that paper wouldn't hurt either. French and English, obviously. Pour nos citoyens, citoyennes. So certainly it's a new position, very positive, and I'm very excited. Forward steps are being taken, and that's the main theme here today. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup, Madame Mattis.
Thank you. Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Monica, for the presentation. I know how hard that your staff works on this, and I really think, we've talked about a lot of things, but we forgot to mention about this new community development officer, which is really going to help us in trying to point where our gaps are. But I think, didn't we speak about this community development officer was also going to be with the youth, not just with the seniors, or was it just for the seniors?
Yeah, no, I think it would be seniors and youth.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So, but I'm thinking I must have missed something here, because when we were talking about why this has taken so long, I had thought that Councillor Crossman and wasn't a deputy mayor that had started another committee or had been on a committee that you said you're bringing something back in the fall? I had thought that we had put the brakes on everything until something came back to us. No?
I'll speak to it.
Well, okay. So that was my understanding, that we were kind of waiting in the wings to see what was coming back and what was going to be suggested. We have a couple choices what we can do here in the long range forecast, right? We have helped the homeless to stay on the snowbanks that they wouldn't die. So we've closed the line seniors to seniors. So we have two choices. We can open it back up to seniors down the road, or we can build a new facility for them if that's what council requests or what this new coordinator thinks down the road, when more studies and data are collected. But that's really where we're at with the senior. I'm so glad that, when we talk about the seniors, I sat on the board for many years, and I can say that they're very good at finding ways to promote themselves and how they get along. So I see that, they've found other places like Curl Moncton. They've gone to the Legion, which is really good, and had their doors open to the Y. So, sometimes when we just kind of stay out of it, they can get a lot of things done too. So anyway, I'll leave it with that. Thank you, Worship. And I look forward to maybe Councillor Crossman saying exactly what was going on there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crossman. I have you up next.
Okay, thank you, Worship. I thought Deputy Mayor Terrio was up next. So Councillor Butler, I'll answer that first. The whole initiative of the seniors being and council deciding that MLCC building on St. George Street was no longer viable for them, came to council under the province of New Brunswick. And you remember this well. We had to make a motion in public, and the province wanted that building for emergency services. They deemed it as an emergency to get the homeless off the street, to exactly what you're saying. But the situation's changed since then. that is no longer an emergency building under the province. As you know, John Howard Society is in there. They are a nonprofit agency. They are in there and they are being paid by the province, and the city of Moncton owns that building. And to me, that was not the initiative that council agreed to take the Moncton Lions Senior Center away from them at that time. We agreed to an emergency shelter, and I was part of that. I agreed to that. But the rules have changed. Everything has changed since. It's no longer an emergency shelter. It's a bridge to home, as you know, and that's the title that the John Howard Society is using. And the province is directing them and funding them for that building. That building is property of the city of Moncton, as you know, and should be used for seniors activities or public activities. We can all agree to that for the residents of Moncton. And that's not what's being done there now. So when the homeless people or the people that are experiencing or going to experience homeless come into that building now, this is the assumption I'm under. They walk through the front door, they put their name down, they register, and then services are not even offered to them in the building. There's no housing offered to them in the building, and away they go. So unless somebody can clarify for me today, that is the case. But in my eyes, it is no longer an emergency shelter. And the city council should look at addressing that reason and moving forward and taking that building back and turning it into, unfortunately, Monica has come forward and said that MLCC is no longer and they're dissolving. So we have to look at another way forward to make that building senior friendly again.
So before we go too far, I'd just like some clarity, and I think Jeff can provide clarity on what actually is happening in that building.
Yeah, so currently the building is being utilized for 30 beds. Those are overnight shelter beds.
That's not emergency, correct? Those are overnight through John Howard Society. Council agreed to an emergency shelter when they moved the seniors from the building.
Yeah, I don't know what the definition of emergency, but overnight shelter currently occurring there at St. George.
Okay, see, and this is where we have some sort of, I'm misunderstanding this. When I voted, it was an emergency shelter by the province, and that's the reason why MLCC was evacuated from the building and the seniors were moved out of the building. And if that is no longer the case, then I think council has a bigger discussion on their hands.
We actually did have this discussion and agreed to the new use. We signed off on it.
Right.
As a council for the new use after the emergency shelter.
Perfect. So thank you, Your Worship, for clarifying that. I appreciate that. Monica, you did state that there's a gap in social activities for seniors across the city of Moncton. And I fully understand the programming that's going out throughout the city of Moncton currently. And I know that you understand this, and I want to make sure that I hear it from you. The seniors are looking for a place where they can gather on a daily function and do activities amongst themselves. And that is what's currently missing, one central location. And that is what's really pushing the seniors right now. They're missing that location. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay, so and this evening a presentation came forward by Branch 6, which is great. I'm glad to see that. But I'd like to know, like, have you had discussions with Branch 6 on making that location, a seniors location, as one hub, one location where they can gather outside of, because I know there's hours in the letter. Councillor Butler shared the letter that came out in February, I do believe it was, on the hours, but some of those hours there'd be a gap. Some seniors would want to go in at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning, and so on and so forth. So have we had those discussions on one permanent locations for the seniors?
No.
Okay, and tonight's recommendation, which I'm in full support of, because I know Deputy Mayor Theriault had brought this up numerous times, that this is the position we need. That person will be able to work with the seniors and the seniors committee of City Hall and make sure that we do look for some sort of permanent location so that they can not only have services across the city, but have one resting spot where they can come and join and respect each other, help each other, and support each other. Is that where we're going with this?
Yes, I think it's key what you just mentioned about having recreation for seniors across the city. We do understand that there is a community need for a hub and a home and where they can gather, as you mentioned. So I think there's almost two sides of it. And short-term, long-term goals as well, right? So short-term goals, it is easier to start in the recreation facilities that we have, start implementing as much as we can with this new community development officer, and then work with our seniors advisory committee and consult with the general public as well on how we move forward and where, right? Because the other thing is we would probably want to find a central location for this senior center.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, good. Thank you, Your Worship. Sorry.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? I believe everyone has had oh, sorry, Councillor Terry, or Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Ah, faut que je passe le bout. OK. Vous m'entendez? Oui. Merci beaucoup, Monica. Je suis très contente de voir cette motion, puis de voir cette éventualité d'avoir un poste. Donc, ça fait longtemps qu'on en parle. Ce qui m'a déçu un peu, c'est peut-être la lenteur. Donc, j'aurais aimé que ça se fasse un petit peu plus vite parce que les personnes âgées dans la ville de Moncton, ils existent depuis longtemps et ils font partie de notre ville. Donc, c'est pas quelque chose de nouveau qui nous est arrivé. Donc, mais ce qui me préoccupe ce soir avec les discussions qu'on a, c'est que, et puis je suis tout à fait d'accord avec les commentaires, il faut créer des partenariats avec des groupes qui existent déjà. Donc, avoir un espace, un réseau central, ça peut être très bien aussi. Mais ce qui me dérange un peu, c'est que je trouve j'aimerais de voir un inventaire. Est-ce qu'il existe à la ville un inventaire de c'est quoi les regroupements pour les personnes âgées? Où est-ce qu'ils sont? Est-ce qu'on peut coordonner tout ça? Est-ce qu'on a besoin d'un lieu central? Ou est-ce que peut-être que ce qui existe peut fonctionner, mais on a besoin de coordonner les activités pour les personnes âgées?
Puis c'est exactement qu'est-ce que le nouveau poste pourrait créer, un nouveau agent de développement communautaire. Parce que là, tout de suite, avec le manque de ressources, c'est difficile, c'est vraiment beaucoup de travail de faire toutes ces recherches-là, puis s'assurer, comme tu as mentionné, que c'est ça le besoin pour notre communauté. Donc, on veut s'assurer de bien faire les choses, puis prendre notre temps, puis s'assurer de vraiment communiquer, puis engager le plus de A&E possible. C'est sûr qu'on utilise beaucoup nos public forums en ligne et tout ça, mais il faut s'assurer que il y a d'autres endroits qu'il va falloir qu'on aille quand même pour s'assurer qu'on a toute la majorité des années puis qu'on comprend vraiment bien leurs besoins.
Merci, Monica. My final question is on the budget. So is it you or is it somebody else? So I think the budget for seniors should reflect the population of seniors in our city. I don't think it does at the moment. So what is the budget and what are we going to be working with? So it's not just hiring a seniors program coordinator, but what else? Are we going to do this study, this inventory? Are we going to contact the Legion, Aberdeen, others? And what's the budget for all of that?
I'll let Jeff answer.
Thank you, Your Worship, to Councillor Terrio or Deputy Mayor Terry. The one thing for the budget right now, we have around 130,000 in our budget, in our current budget. We have started the budget process internally as of now. We will be coming back to council on a couple of occasions before budget deliberations in November. But that will certainly be an option for council at the time if that funding, if there's a need for that funding to be increased or so on.
Merci, Jacques. So you would have 100,000 for perhaps the program director plus 130 for.
No, currently we have 130,000, but I think it's a little bit more than that as well, though, because we have funding. For example, we provide funding to the YMCA, we provide funding to the Kay Crossman Center, we provide funding to the Moncton Coliseum for those activities as well. So I think direct funding that was previously allocated to the Lions Center is 130,000, but we still have a lot more funding that our seniors community uses in our community. Now, that being said, that can be increased, and those are decisions that council can make during budget deliberations.
Merci, Jacques. I just want to make sure I understand correctly. So 130,000 includes a salary of, that is it?
Of direct funding, yes. But of course, like for example, if there are activities at Decay that occur, if there are activities that fall within our current programming with the YMCA, with the East End, then it's in addition, but the direct funding right now, but it's a lot more than just 130,000. But the 130,000 was what we previously provided to the Lions Center, that is now being discussed in this CRF for the hiring of a community development officer, plus some additional funding. But those things can always be reassessed. That's what we have now.
I hope so, because that's not a lot of funding for the seniors in the city of Moncton. So I hope we can come up with a budget that reflects the seniors community. And let's not forget that the seniors were community leaders. They contributed so much. So I know, we do have seniors who use various centers, but I would like to know exactly how much money, for example, if they use the Crossman. So what part of the budget do we give to the Crossman Center covers just the seniors' activities? So I think we need to do this right, and we need to treat the seniors the same way that we treat everyone else in the city when we budget. So can we do that? I think it would take some exploring and detailed work so that we can know exactly what it is that we fund for seniors.
Thank you. Councillor Richard.
Merci, Madame la Maire. Merci, Monica. While we're waiting for this community development officer to come in, programs are being worked on. You guys are working with, and we have seniors here tonight that really want to hear what's going to happen. Can we say that we might be exploring more options? We might be working with more partners. Can we tell them? Can we assure them that we're really hard on this? And believe me, I'm not saying that we haven't done anything. I'm just saying we just assure that this is continuing.
Yeah, no, of course. Like I mentioned, sometimes it's very simple what we can implement right away. Like we got a call this week about adding a senior swim. Pretty easy, it's ours, right? And it doesn't really cost us more money. We already have lifeguards there, so it really doesn't cost more. So we are open at all time to discuss any partnerships, depending on funding and all that. Again, it's sometimes easy to implement, sometimes it takes a little bit more time, but we would be open to any partnership that comes to our door at all.
I hope someone's listening to these sessions so that they understand that they should be
a lot of calls tomorrow.
They should be coming in and provide, giving us some stuff that they could offer and where we can partnership. So, merci beaucoup.
Thank you. I see no other questions. I'd like to thank you, Monica, and your team, and thank the seniors for their understanding during this rather challenging time. I'd also like to thank those who stepped up to help. It's been a hard few months, and really appreciate all the work that's gone on this. I don't think there's hardly a day that goes by that I don't have a conversation with someone about the need for more social infrastructure in our community. We have a real deficit right now. We need to have more community gathering spaces for all members of our community. So this needs to be, a big priority as we, plan our future. Just really wanted to thank everyone for their understanding in all of this. On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Hello.
Your microphone. So this motion has been moved, it is done, so you can perhaps put another motion in conjunction with that. Councillor Leger, did you want to do
Yes.
that, or?
I can,
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess sort of coming back to the availability of the funds now. And thank you, Councillor Butler, for circulating the letter that was sent to council on February 22nd. And so the Legion, and this has been probably excellent timing, because in February of 2022, the Legion proposed its activities, and it proposed an agenda or an itinerary 4 days a week and all the activities they would do. And now we're here in July, and they tonight have told us how successful this has been. And at the moment, they have 345 seniors that are coming to their facility. And so I would refer council to the proposal that was sent to us, and it stretched over 50 weeks. It amounted to 24 hours a week. They were asking for $70 an hour to offset the costs. And so that was for a total of $84,000. It's clear in my mind in terms of some of the things that they said they were going to do that they're doing. I mean, they're doing senior exercise classes, they're doing line dancing, they're providing activities in terms of cards, things along that line. So seniors exercise classes, they're doing 3 hours, over 4 days. They're doing card playing, line dancing. They even had plans for senior social. They're really, they have stepped up, and I think that it is timely. And so I would like to move a motion that we consider the request that we received back in February to over the next 50 weeks, that $84,000 be in support for the Lions, for the Legion 6 be granted. And so moved.
So moved by Councillor Leger, seconded by Councillor Butler. Councillor Crossman.
I have a question to the mover and the seconder. During budget deliberations last year, I floated a motion for $100,000 to have a permanent home for the seniors, 6 days a week. Is there some way that we can get the branch 6 up to 6 days a week for $100,000? Because if I do quick math, 24 hours a week, what's a week? 7 days or 5 days is my first question. If it's 5 days, that's 4.8 hours a day for seniors activities. Whereas the other location was 8 to 5, Monday to Saturday. So I'm just trying to figure out apples to apples here. What are we going to get more hours if we supply more dollars?
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Butler.
I think that Bob and Al are here. They could certainly answer that. I think I just wanted to send around what their request was back in February. So yeah, I'm sure that maybe Bob, you could come to the mic. Councillor Crossman had a question in regards to timing. He had put in a motion for $100,000 back. I'll let him speak.
So back in budget deliberations of last year, I moved a motion that was seconded but defeated by council to put $100,000 into a permanent location for seniors. So that's what seniors are looking for on top of activities as well. So my question to you is, you're at $84,000 for 24 hours a week. Is a week 5 days or 7 days first?
It could be 5 days. The reason I didn't mention Sunday is a senior social. It's very popular. I've managed to get New Horizon to sponsor the Sunday only, where I have people that come in, especially the wintertime, they asked if they could come in at 11 o'clock because they need a place to eat, place to socialize.
I agree.
We give them something to eat. We have door prizes. We make them feel like they belong.
Right.
So I didn't include the Sunday because I managed to get New Horizon to sponsor it. I've been very fortunate that it's my 5th year that I can do that. How I did it, I don't know. But anyway, I'll accept it. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, the Legion is closed usually on Monday, Tuesday, and part of Wednesday till supper time. The line dancing come in every Tuesday night. They have 3 classes, and those 3 classes are 30 people each class. Then we started having seniors on Wednesday. So what I have available for them is more than just a few hours a day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are open, and Thursday also. As you know, we also have lots of veterans. We run a seniors activities for our veterans, and it's open to anybody who wants to go. But there's Legion activities where the bar is open, and that's Friday and Saturday. Other than that, we don't make any money. No, we try to keep going. Plus, we have a very active homeless veterans that we deal a lot with the other communities here in the city, like the John Howard. We deal quite a bit with them, and we've taken some people off the street, fortunately, and gave them a home. We also manage 16 apartments that are on 10th Street. And it's all volunteer work. All our work at the Legion is all volunteer work, myself included. The only ones that get paid is the bartenders. So instead of the Legion making money 7 days a week, we don't anymore. So we need to partner up. And seniors was great because seniors were asking, can we go and do something at your Legion? So I did a schedule. I accommodated quite a few seniors, ended up to 400 and some. There's also a waiting list because I don't think we have enough instructors because there's people waiting to come in and do low impact activities. So that's where we're at. In order to keep that going, we need some assistance.
Right.
And our main goal is to try to break even over the year. Our Poppy campaign does a lot to give to grants for the bursaries for the kids that go. We give $1,000 bursaries. We involve 19 schools that all the poster literacy contest. And what we do is I give prizes to them. And we had 83 students that get prizes. Plus we had some provincial winners. So the Legion is very open to be partners. That's part of our survival, and that's where I'm at. As far as 6-7 days a week, we have to give some time for the functions of the Legion, which are now we could go Monday to Friday. Sunday's already it's compensated for, but next year we have 60-some people that can come there and they have a great time.
So when you were at the mic earlier during public presentations, my question at the time would have been Monday through Friday, or senior, would you be available for seniors to access?
Yes, I would.
Monday to Friday, provided, I mean, $84,000. I mean, if we look at it, it's not a lot of money to do Monday to Friday for you. This is the concern, is they don't have a current gathering space where they can go in and meet other veterans and they can socialize with other veterans and those within the community.
The Legion is wide open. The exercise room is one thing. There's a nice lounge there that they could sit down and just chat and cool off and have a bottle of water. We have a great games room for the ones that wanted to stay, and we don't make any money because the bar is not open. But it would be available that we could do a lot more socializing for our seniors that's going on now.
And I think, I don't want to make an amendment. I will make an amendment to go up to $100,000. If this is what's being offered by the branch and that the city of Moncton can work with the seniors for that one location to move forward, I think $100,000, quite honestly, would help you a lot more. than 84 would allow you to open the doors more often for seniors
Yes.
and to invite them into a welcoming and safe location.
And it's
So-
also, I have a caretaker and the cleaning is good. And that's one thing that the seniors like. There's great groups. When you have a bunch of seniors that are laughing on the way in and laughing on the way out, it's a good day.
All right, thank you, thank you, thank you, Your Worship.
All right. I have, Councillor Leger, you were the seconder of the motion, so I'm going to give you the floor, and then I have Councillor Bourgeois.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think that it's great that we're having a discussion in and around having a permanent location, or at least something that is identified as truly a space for seniors. I had noted, and thank you to the clerk for sending the motion so that we could review it. And so the original motion was that Moncton City Council approve funding for the seniors' activities at Branch 6 Royal Canadian Legion Veterans Avenue at a cost of $70 an hour for 24 hours a week times 50 weeks for a total of $84,000. And then in light of the conversation and the willingness to say, you know, could this work more full-time and what Bob has been saying now with respect to that, we could do two things. We could increase the funding from 84 to 100, or we could make a decision today on the 84, but explore increasing the funding to $100,000, creating a permanent location for seniors. So it's however we want to set up. I'm okay either way.
I have a lot of concerns about this, what's happening right here, right now. We're also moving into a new budget session.
But they've been providing the services since February.
Totally.
The requests came in February. So I'm prepared to stand by the original motion. And if we want to look at extending it and maybe, you know, broadening that for the new year, that's fine. But at least the minimum is we give them the funding for the $84,000 to continue the programs. And in fact, they might even be able to expand the programs and show us again how effective it is. So I'm okay with that.
Thank you. Councillor Bourgeois.
Merci, Madame la Maire. J'ai une question. Qu'est-ce que ça fait? Monica. And I also have a question for Bob after. Oh, I'll ask Bob first. Sorry. You're asking for 84,000 from your original letter. Do the seniors pay anything for these activities?
Right now, I charge $30 when they have a session. It usually takes about an hour and a half. They got to set up. That's what I charge. So I thought it.
$30 per senior? No.
No.
Maybe describe what a session is.
A session is when they come in, if they're booked to come in and have a session of an hour, they got to set up and they got to tear down and have their 1 hour. I charge them $30.
No, I'll rephrase. What's the age for seniors? 65?
I don't get involved in any price whatsoever with the seniors. The instructor is the one that deals with that. I don't charge them.
Okay.
The Legion, I opened the doors and I know it was a cost, but it was worth the cost that we try to break even and give them a place. It's worked out that it gets pretty scary some months and I have to pay a guy instead of 4 hours to clean the Legion, I'm paying 8 hours. Then we have their electric bill and we have et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I get that. My question was, do you charge the seniors that participate in these?
I charge the group that the instructor that came in, I said, I'll charge you $30 to.
But you don't charge $30. If I'm a senior, I am going to one of those Rumba classes.
I don't charge any seniors.
Okay, why not?
But I think the question is, do the instructors charge the seniors?
I know they do.
Oh,
They do. Okay. I think that's what Councillor Borch was trying to get
The
at.
instructors that are here,
Okay.
that was sitting behind me.
So-
How much they charge, I don't know.
Okay, so
I made the Legion available and the classes grew. And I know I'm getting some calls saying, can we come? And I asked one of the instructors that said, we're looking for another instructor. The use of the Legion, the $30 didn't cover our cost. I just made it available because they were knocking at the door.
Okay, so the city of Moncton, the citizens of Moncton are, if this motion passes, are going to give you a check for $84,000. What exactly are we getting? What are we paying for if you have this facility and you hire or you let instructors come in and the seniors pay the instructors? So what exactly is the $84,000 for?
The only ones that are being paid is the ones that have an instructor, they pay them. I mean, like the card players come in the afternoon and they play, there's 25 or 30 of them. They come in, they play, there's no charge whatsoever. They throw a toonie so they can have a little party at the end, that's all. I don't charge them.
Okay. Personally, I don't know what the rest of council, I don't like it when the citizens of Moncton pay through taxes, even if it's a relatively small amount, but some people will argue it's a big amount, when the beneficiaries don't pay as well. Like whether it's Moncton Minor Sports or whatever else, the kids or their parents pay something into it. We give a grant sort of to help them out, reduce some of the costs and stuff like that. So the way you're explaining it, and maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying, is that the seniors for the activities that there are no instructors, they don't pay anything.
No, it's available, they come in. What the instructors charge, I don't know. I have a facility that if I have to heat and clean and pay a water bill, et cetera, I have to cover that cost.
Okay.
I haven't wanted to ask the seniors to pay me for that.
Okay, so that's what the $84,000 is for, heat, electricity, and...
Exactly, and it's sanitized, and when they come in, it's
janitors.
Clean. I have a janitor full-time instead of part-time, and he pays his taxes.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Maintenant, Monica, ma peur, ma crainte, c'est qu'il y aura d'autres organismes d'années qui vont venir demain matin pour dire, ah, il y a eu 84 000 pièces. Moi, j'aimerais avoir 84 000 pièces. Est-ce que vous pouvez nous dire combien d'autres organismes, pour reprendre la question que la conseillère Thériault avait posée tantôt, combien d'autres organismes existent dans la ville et combien d'entre eux pourraient venir nous demander la même chose la prochaine réunion?
J'ai pas le montant d'organismes dans toute la ville, mais juste pour te donner une idée, on a déjà eu 3 proposals depuis décembre ou janvier. Donc, comme c'est sûr, si les gens entendent ça, puis il y en a certainement d'autres qui vont venir cogner à la porte.
OK. OK. Merci beaucoup. Merci. Merci, Madame la maire.
Thank you. Councillor Richard.
Merci, Madame la maire. I was just asking on procedurally, there was an amendment on the floor. Does he need a seconder for that?
On the amendment, I was giving everyone just an opportunity to kind of understand what's going on here. But yes, Councillor Crossman did make an amendment to up it to $100,000. Was there someone who wished to second the amendment? You wish to second?
I wish to second it. And I really like what's happening already with that Legion. So if we can make it work through Monica's group and offer more services there, that would be
Is there anyone who's not spoken on this topic who wishes to speak?
Yeah, me.
I think you've spoken, have you not?
Yeah.
On this topic. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Councillor Steves, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Arnold. My question is, this 84,000, is it back pay?
or is it 52 weeks starting next week? That's not clear in the motion.
My feeling is that it would be starting today. We would do the next 50 weeks. Any way you look at it, it's going to, or is that okay, I guess, with the organization?
Yeah, and we are entering a new budget. The 52 weeks will run into next year's budget. So I think one of the reasons we're irritated and the money seems necessary is because of the missed letter in February. That seems to be part of the tension. So to start next week doesn't seem like we're making up for us dragging our heels over the last 6 months on this topic.
So what would be your suggestion if I'm
I would let our acting CAO speak.
Just on that comment, through to Councillor Steves, as Monica mentioned earlier, we were in a bit of a holding pattern because of the Moncton Lions Community Center. So we really couldn't commit funds. So fully acknowledge that letter did come into council in February. Administration received it at that time, or in March also. But we really couldn't commit to anything at that point. So we're here now, happy to have this discussion now. But that is a very valid point. Are we talking about moving forward for 50 weeks? Are we talking about potentially just moving forward until the end of the year, and then we'll make a new decision at budget time for 2025? I think there's a lot of questions to be answered. If the mover and seconder were amenable to it, administration could bring this back to the next meeting after we could gather up questions from council. We could have a discussion with the Legion. Perhaps there's other things that we can do to work with them that may help them besides the $84,000 or whatever that amount may be. So just throwing that out there also.
Anyone who has not spoken on this topic who wishes to speak, I would like to chime in. I think this is fantastic. Bob, what you're doing and your team is really terrific. But I think there are a lot of unanswered questions right now. I would really love to see this to go back to staff, evaluate, come back to our next meeting in August with some answers on what are some of the other proposals that we've seen, because there are some other really great proposals. How is this for just to the end of the year? Is it for into next year? I think there are a number of questions that we don't really have the answer to right at the moment. And that's what I would very much like to see is, some of these questions answered and come back to council at our next meeting. Fully supportive. It sounds like you've been doing yeoman's work, and I know you have been, and you should be able to have some of those costs covered. But I think we also need some answers on some of the other possibilities in our community right now. Round two, I have Councillor Crossman, Councillor Butler, and Deputy Mayor Theriault. So, Councillor Crossman.
No, Your Worship, I'm sorry, I have nothing around two.
Thank you. Councillor Butler.
Yeah, I would like to, first of all, ask our CO of Finance, Jacques Doucet, there to let us know, so how much money do we have in the seniors, or in the budget for the seniors? Is there enough in there to cover this $84,000? And also, I think that I would like to, myself personally, when I was thinking when we were doing this, that we would have started back in February and come up to here, because these people have been doing that. So I wouldn't want to get caught into another budget year. We'd have a new person coming on in January. So this would cover from March or from February to February, and then by that time we have something to look at. So, what's your?
I'll take your worship to Councillor Butler. We do have. We had budgeted approximately $130,000 for the 2024 fiscal year. There's been very little spend, maybe around. I'm not even sure, less than $20,000. Mm-hmm. So there would be funds available in 2024. To be able to cover some of those expenses. However, if we want to calculate from February to now or the motion itself, there would be funds, yes.
My understanding was is from February to next February that we would give them $84,000, so that way they would be caught up. So anyway, that was mine. Thank you.
Next up, I have Councillor Theriault. Oh, excuse me, Deputy Mayor.
Merci, Madame la Maire. I tend to agree with our mayor on this. I'm really getting confused, and there's an expression in English. How do you say it? You put the cart before the horse. Well, I think that's exactly what we're doing. We don't even know how many seniors group we have in our city. We haven't done the inventory. Should we donate, give money to all of the seniors group? Which one do we identify that we give money to? Do we have a policy on this? I'm really confused, and I thought that we were going to hire a senior program director to get us on the right track so that, like Conseil des Genres mentioned, and I agree. I mean, the Legion is great. We also met with Aberdeen. They're also great. So are we going to give them funding? I think we need to rethink this whole process before we make a decision on funding any group at the moment. That's my take on it.
Anyone else? Councillor Leger.
Could we table the motion, please?
Just, may I just say something?
That's
before
not
we-
negotiable. A motion to take,
I thought you had given me the floor, though.
Pardon me?
I thought you had just given me the floor when she
Okay.
indicated.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I think what's positive out of this is the fact that we're, first of all, having the discussion. And yes, there may be a variety of other proposals that may come out and might, be put forth. And I agree that we have to have a process. And I think it would be nice to have the process in the fall and say, okay, what is this going to look like? What we have in front of us, though, is an organization that's providing, they're providing different outlets for 345 seniors. And so they've been doing this since the month of February at a cost of about $7,000 a month. Okay, so even if we went back and said, you know what, we didn't ask them to do it, but they're doing it, and they're doing it graciously doing it, so that we're not receiving 345 phone calls from seniors who are saying, well, we don't have anywhere to go, and by the way, you're seniors friendly. How really friendly are you? And so on. So I think that what we have in front of us is, that's the dilemma. Okay, the $84,000. Then we're going into another budget year. What do we do? At least what we could do this evening is we could say, you know what? Today we're into the month of July. So let's go from February to July, give them $42,000, and then we'll come back in August, because we're going to have a meeting in August, and then we'll talk about what is our direction moving forward. Because when we look at it, we don't get these types of situations very often. And I really want to thank the Legion for stepping up and for being there. And we could have more clarification. If we remember the Lions Center, I think the membership was $20 or $25 a year that seniors paid. Maybe that needs to be part of that overall plan that we're going to have. And right now, I think, hopefully Monica and I don't know how many other staff there are, because so many people have left. Maybe, you can do that and give us an idea in August saying, okay, here's the best approach. But at least for tonight, for what they've been able to deliver and do, and involving that many seniors, and I'm sure that probably at times it's probably well into over 400 and 500 seniors, depending on what's happening. So if with permission, I would change the motion to at least say that we give them funding for services that they've already delivered with respect to their ability to let their have their facility available, to the tune of $42,000, which would cover $7,000 a month for the month of February, March, April, May, June, and July. And we come back in August, and then we have a different discussion in terms of, okay, moving forward. How would that sound?
I don't know if you were the mover or seconder, do you agree with that? And coming back in August with more details.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but I would want to make sure that we're given staff enough time to come back with the answers. It doesn't have to be a full-fledged, just to figure out, how many seniors are going up there, what they're doing, or for sure.
Okay, so
Do you, may I ask that, is that enough time? Or we extend it another month to September, for example, August, for example?
Monica, please bring us home on this one.
Can we say September just to make sure, so that we have enough time to make sure that we gather all the information needed? I'm just concerned August is very quick, so.
Okay, so if we did that, then we would add another $7,000 because they're going to be putting that forward anyway. So it would be $49,000, bringing us to the end of August. And then in September, we would be prepared to come back probably the second meeting in September to have a discussion. Fair enough? Okay, I'd be comfortable with that. And I think as well, in closing, it would, it's unfortunate this has developed this way, but I think I want to again say, you know what, it's great to see organizations step up. There will be other organizations, and that's why we need to sort of figure out how to do this.
Thank you. That sounds like a very reasonable idea. And the seconder agrees with it. So way back, we did have an amendment. Do you still want that amendment on the floor, Councillor Crossman?
Thank you for the question, Your Worship. I'm trying to figure out how we went from a motion to table to a new motion. So I'm lost on that.
It's kind of all over the place.
I need some sort of direction from administration how we did that before I can decide, because quite honestly, I can't move a $100,000 motion if there's been a proposal to table it in prior discussions.
Well, I believe that the councillor had the floor before councillors that said.
Okay, so I need to hear the current motion because it's been modified.
I would ask our clerk to read us the current
Great,
motion.
thank you before I.
Okay. That Moncton City Council approve funding in the amount of $49,000 for senior activities held at the Branch 6 Royal Canadian Legion on Venturous Avenue for services provided from February now to August 2024, and that administration come to council on the September 19th regular public meeting with further potential funding or action.
Further potential funding for the remainder of the year? Is that what I understood? I didn't hear it because the mic cut out.
To discuss options with council.
Okay, and at that point, up to $100,000 within 1 year, like yearly. Yeah, I just want to make sure that $100,000 is in there somewhere yearly, and that we do understand that the branch could be one location for the seniors to gather. And we're also looking at hiring an employee that will help in that matter. So that I'm okay with, yes.
All right. Well, it's been messy, but I think we've made some progress, and I'd like to thank everyone for that. Okay, so Councillor Bourgeois.
I'm coming back to an earlier motion 3 months ago by Councillor Steves. Is it possible to have it in writing now?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, no, it's a very good idea.
Convoluted motion.
So our clerk will be
I
emailing
think
us.
we understand it, but I'd like to see it.
Non, lui avait dit ça serait d'attendre quand on a des résolutions comme un juge spécial, comme ça, il devrait l'avoir par écrit.
Also, ce que j'ai dit, c'est ça. À l'entrée, là,
Oui, mais c'est
parce qu'avec les commentaires de change, est-ce que c'est pas là?
It's coming. Democracy takes time. It's coming.
Yeah, c'est ça. Si c'est juste.
Oh, we could take a 5-minute health break. Why don't we take a 5-minute health break and we'll be back?
Non, je dis pas que ce soit ça, mais je dis juste que ça peut être. Ils vont faire un petit scénario, je attends. Il y a quelques filles dans les autres qui font comme ça.
On va le savoir au mois de septembre. Les autres.
You're taking a break?
I guess. Que tant qu'il est en dérédigé, hein.
Okay.
All right. Moi, je suis là pour la réception. Pardon? Ah.
All right. Okay.
But I pick up, I'm like, pretty bad.
Council, you all have the motion now. Oh, there's an extra zero on 49,000.
Oh, ignore it. Ignore.
No, it's 49,000.
It's 49.
4.9 million
Yeah, okay, sorry.
or 490,000.
Hey, it's been a long night. Yeah, it did. That's what we'll go with. Okay, so the motion that was just sent to council was as
Order,
follows. The second motion,
I'd like to call this meeting back to order.
that Moncton City Council approve funding in the amount of 49,000 for operational costs incurred by the Branch 6 Royal Canadian Legion Veterans Avenue for provision of senior activities from February to August 2024, and that administration return to council at the September 19th regular public meeting with other options for future programming partnerships. Moved by Councillor Legier and seconded by Councillor Butler.
Excellent. On the question. Are we good? On the question? Councillor Crossman.
Thank you, Your Worship. To our CFO, where's the if this is approved today, where's the $49,000 coming from?
Thank you, Your Worship, to Councillor Crossman. Based on the conversation today, it would come out of the 130,000 of funding allocated for seniors in the 2024 budget year.
So how much money is left in the council contingency fund that this council approved back in last year's deliberations?
I don't have the exact number, but I think it's over 700,000 or something like that.
So maybe in order to keep funding separate to the mover and the seconder, that you look at maybe taking it out of the council contingency fund, which was geared at supporting community activities versus maybe possibly running into a staffing issue down the road for that one position.
The staffing issue is for next year's budget, right?
Yeah.
So,
True, but 700,000, okay. Okay, thank you. I have to ask the question. I'm surprised that there's close to, I would like to know the number though, Jacques, when you do get a chance. Oh,
2 seconds, I'm just looking here in
okay, thank you, Your Worship.
my live document. It seems that
I think on the question, though, we can move ahead. You can send that to us after that. It's not pertinent to the question. So on the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? One opposition, Deputy Mayor, motion carries. And thank you, Councillor Legier, for your creative problem solving.
The next item on tonight's agenda is a community grant policy, and the motion before council is that Moncton City Council approve the community grant administration and evaluation policy as presented during the committee of the whole on December 18, 2023.
Thank you. Is there someone who wishes to move this? Thank you, Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Kingston. Any questions on the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
10.3. We can't hear you.
Okay. Item 10.3 is dangerous or unsightly premises and property bylaws Z 824 to repeal and replace bylaws Z 819. And the motion before council is that Moncton City Council give first reading to the proposed bylaws Z 824, a bylaw relating to dangerous or unsightly premises and property in the city of Moncton.
Thank you. And of course, this is just to include the newly annexed areas. Moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Steves. Any questions on the question?
Just a-
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Maybe, and this could be to either the acting CAO or to other staff, just a quick overview as to why we're doing this, just because it basically, there are slight changes, but that's it.
Thank you, Worship, through to Councillor Legier. So with the reform to local governance and amendments to the Local Governance Act, we have to amend bylaws that we want to apply to the newly annexed areas. So administration right now are going through the process of looking at all of our bylaws, working with those departments who work with those bylaws, and figuring out which ones need to be, which provisions of each bylaw even. Sometimes it's not the whole bylaw, it's certain provisions that may need to be amended to be applicable to those annexed areas. So this is one that we're moving forward on. You'll see more coming in the near future, but it's just so that we can apply this bylaw to those annexed areas.
Councillor Bourgeois.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Maire. I like the fact that we're sort of forced to review our bylaws, but we have, I don't know how many bylaws, 40 some odd bylaws, 40 some odd policies, and we don't review them on a regular basis. I'm not sure what the frequency should be, but we have policies and bylaws that have been there for years, and maybe they need an update every once in a while. So I don't know how the rest of council feel about it, but our most important function when we are elected by the citizens is to adopt these bylaws and policies to guide how staff do their work, what they do, how they do it, when they do it, and all that stuff. And yet we don't really review them on a regular basis. So I would like us to think somehow, somewhere, sooner rather than later, on how we should review. What's the process? Is it every 5 years we should review bylaws and policies at the most? Is there a schedule that maybe we take a bylaw a month, that we go through it, and if we have no modifications to suggest, then we have no modifications to suggest. But if we have something, then maybe we should kickstart something more formal down the road. It doesn't make sense to me that we have 40 some odd policies and 40 some odd bylaws and we don't review them on a regular basis, however we define regular. So let's think it through, and maybe staff could come up with some sort of options for council's consideration to say, okay, over the next 5 years, this is, the 2 bylaws, 3 bylaws a year, whatever it is. Some are huge, like the planning is huge, and we review it on a regular basis because there's a lot of modifications that go on, rezoning and everything else. But the other bylaws, such as this one, it's not that long. I think we could scan through it once a month, that kind of bylaw, and say, maybe we should look into this or modify that. And if so, then staff would do the legwork involved. I'm throwing it out there, but I think it behooves us to review our policies and our bylaws on a regular basis. Thank you. Merci.
Councillor, Deputy Mayor Terrio.
Merci. I totally agree with Conseiller Bourgeois on this. And Nick, I read this over the weekend. I have no idea what this unsightly premises, what changes are we making as an elected official? For me, if someone asked me, what changes did you make to the bylaws for unsightly premises? I have no idea.
Absolutely none, except now the bylaw applies to the newly the newly incorporated areas of the city that were annexed with the local
So
governance.
it doesn't change
Doesn't change
the
the content of
in
the
our area, so the new rate.
Correct.
C'est beau. Yeah, c'est beau.
I'm good. Sorry. 10 point, we didn't vote.
Oh, sorry. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item 10.4 is request for proposal RFP 24035 St. George Street Improvement Plan. Motion before council is that Moncton City Council approve administration's recommendation to award request for proposal RFP 24035 St. George Street Improvement Plan to the highest scoring proponent being Alta Planning and Design Canada, Inc., in the amount of $164,835.64, including HST, at 15%, and that the funding required for this consulting engagement be withdrawn from Moncton City Council's contingency fund in the amount of $150,000, as this is public engagement. Consultation process is being actioned by administration at the request of City Council and was not included as part of the city's 2024 budgeting process, and that the mayor and the city clerk be authorized to execute a professional service agreement between the city and the successful proponent and affix the corporate seal thereto.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Bourgeois, seconded by Councillor Legier. Back to you, Councillor Bourgeois.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la maire. Monsieur Doucette, est-ce qu'il y a, je sais pas comment on les appelle en français, là, mais des borrowing authority qu'on aurait accumulés depuis des années, qui n'ont pas été dépensés ou pas été empruntés, qu'on pourrait utiliser pour payer ça plutôt que de prendre ça du contingency fund? Il y a eu récemment plusieurs des dépenses pour des projets que le personnel est venu au conseil pour dire on veut faire ça de plus cette année, c'était imprévu, les budgets étaient plus. Or, on a trouvé des fonds qui n'avaient pas été empruntés ou qui n'avaient pas été utilisés avant. Est-ce qu'il y aurait des fonds qui seraient pas utilisés ou pas empruntés qu'on serait capable d'aller chercher plutôt que de dépenser ça du contingency fund?
Merci, conseiller Bourgeois. Il y a déjà, ma réponse vraiment, c'est qu'il faudrait que je fasse la recherche. Je le sais qu'il y a 3 items ce soir qui n'étaient pas dans notre plan de budget. Je le sais que 2 des items, on a eu la difficulté à trouver du Unused Authority. Avant, on avait l'Unused Authority qui était un petit peu plus, disons, en santé. Mais à cause de l'inflation, puis il y a des projets qui viennent, qui sont plus que notre budget, des choses de même, on a vraiment été obligé de piger. Donc, il faudra vraiment que je vérifie avec les départements pour voir si que les fonds sont commis à d'autres projets, puis je suis pas au courant. Donc, tout de suite, je peux pas vraiment répondre. Je le sais qu'on a eu la difficulté à le trouver pour 2 autres items de engineering ce soir. Donc, je peux te revenir. Mais tout de suite, je n'ai pas la réponse.
OK. Puis je sais qu'il y a certaines limites, surtout lorsqu'on va chercher des emprunts, que le gouvernement dit, OK, si c'est étiqueté pour ça, vous ne pouvez pas l'utiliser pour autre chose. Peut-être qu'il n'y a pas d'argent disponible pour ce projet de ce genre-là. Je laisse faire, mais dorénavant, lorsqu'on arrive avec des fonds, plutôt que de dire, OK, on va le prendre du budget du conseil, s'il y a pour les projets du conseil, parce qu'on est capable d'aller chercher des fonds qui sont déjà préapprouvés, qu'on n'a pas utilisés. Lorsque vous autres, le personnel, vous avez des idées puis des beaux projets, puis je ne remets pas en question les... Mais c'est pas juste que le budget soit réservé pour vous autres et non pas pour des projets du conseil de temps en temps comme celui-ci. C'est tout. C'est la prochaine fois. Je laisse faire pour ce ici. Merci. Merci, Madame la maire.
Councillor Legier.
Thank you. With regards to the RFP, it talks about a comprehensive engagement process utilizing innovative in-person and online strategies with business owners on the street, other interested and affected parties, neighboring residents, and the wider community. What about, and so I would just want to make sure that it will take into the active transportation committee, the active members that are trying to make sure that St. George Street is more friendly to pedestrians, friendlier to bicycles and so on. So I see you nodding. So as long as that's understood, and hopefully they will be giving some suggestions that can come back then to council on how we move forward with that. And when you talk to businesses, one thing that I would like to hear back is we've seen other municipalities who have had major construction projects and how it is impacted on businesses. It's impacted, some have survived, some have not survived. Even Fredericton, probably was now 2 years ago, I was there and half the street was dug up. And although you still could access the businesses, many people didn't even go there because it just looked so dusty and industrial and so on. So it would be important to have that feedback from businesses on, okay, what suggestions do they have? I know some municipalities have looked at, well, if we're going to, we have to do work in the summertime. We know that. We have to do it when we can. But is there a way, some municipalities have looked at compensation. They've looked at saying, okay, you know what, we're going to have to factor in how much you might lose. Similar to a situation that happened recently with one of the events on Main Street, and one particular restaurant was very negatively impacted on a situation that occurred that probably shouldn't have occurred. And as municipalities, often we'll just dismiss it. But on this one, we should really make sure, because we're going to do one block at a time, or let's say a couple blocks at a time. Not all blocks have the same impact business-wise, but I would like to make sure that we hear from those businesses. We don't just take a random, we probably need to really go out and seek all of them out and see what that. So, I could use the example of Shoppers Drug Mart versus the plaza on the other side of the street. Well, the plaza on the other side of the street, you can access from Bonacore, I guess the back side. Shoppers Drug Mart, you can't. You could come out the street. So just those things so that we'd have a better understanding, because we have to do the project. It's a question of how do we do it, and everyone's engaged. It won't satisfy everyone, but at least we'll have the opportunity to at least see what strategies we might put in place as we go. So appreciate it.
Thank you, Your Worship, through the Councillor Legere. And I just want to add and clarify that this RFP is about the concept plan of St. George. So the engagement piece will be more focused on what will be the look of St. George in the future and the pedestrian environment. But we can certainly look into the future and start thinking about the construction as well.
Well, it's interesting because, maybe something to think about is maybe we need to have another type of engagement. I mean, I understand this is specific for the construction and some of, have we, maybe this is something for economic development or downtown Moncton, Centre-Ville Link, to take a look and say, what type of engagement do we have to do with the business community, the people who are going to be impacted, and what does that look like so that it more or less is in parallel with what we're going to do. So I put that out there. I don't know what the answer is, but it would be something maybe to circle back with economic development and make sure that something like that is available.
Sure. Great.
Thank you.
Councillor Steves.
Thank you, Meryl. And this may be a policy question, which is interesting because Councillor Bourgeois just said such thing. Might be for you, Nick, and that is about the proponents and the total scores. Perhaps I don't recall seeing a 1% difference on the 83. This is for St. George. 83.74 on page 3. You see that? Page 2, actually. And 82.74. That 1%, is that common? Has that happened before? I mean, that's all but a tie. And is our policy simply whoever scores the highest, or is when you get down to a 1%, is there an eye test situation where certain companies have worked with the city and we've been pleased with their work? What does the policy say?
So we rely on the Procurement Act essentially the regulations.
Yeah.
Our own procurement policy reflects the act. We have to rely on case law also. And really, those items that you're talking about are all worked into that score. It's already in there. So 1% difference, it could be a less than 1% difference. We've seen sometimes.
An overtime win, shootout. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Richard.
Merci, Madame la Maire. Question I'm just going to go back to the comments that Councilor Bourgeois was saying. We're talking about this the council contingency fund. We've been talking about this a few times now. Could council please receive what council had asked for that, why we had asked that, what we had asked that for, sorry? It must be something in writing somewhere. I went into minutes trying to find it. I couldn't find it over the weekend. If we could get clarification on what that contingency fund was initially made for. Okay, that would be an ask.
Okay.
And also, okay. No, my other questions were answered, so. Okay.
Terrific. All right, thank you. I don't see any other questions at this time on the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
10.5 is a request for proposal RFP 24070, Property Managers Services, Moncton City Hall. The motion before council is that Moncton City Council approve administration's recommendation to award a request for proposal RFP 24070, Property Management Services, Moncton City Hall, to the highest scoring proponent being Brookfield Global Integrated Solutions Canada LP, BGIS, for a 2-year term at an approximate contract value of $621,395.35, including HST at 15%, with the option to extend the agreement for up to 8 additional 12-month periods, and that the mayor and the city clerk be authorized to execute a legal agreement between the city and the successful proponent and affix the corporate seal thereto.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Richard. And you have a question, seconded by Councillor Kingston. Back to you, Councillor Richard.
So just on the funding side of it, the accounts that the money is going to be taken from, they're not mentioned. So as we were talking about this in the last motion.
Just to confirm, thank you, Your Worship, to Councillor Richard. Are we still talking about the unused authority here? We're talking about the property management services.
Property management.
Okay, so in this case, what it'll be, because we do have this budget, and this is the operational budget that we pay for property management services. It would not be capital in nature. So basically here, as there's an increase in pricing, we will need to absorb it as a loss or as an over expenditure. And then at the end of the year, depending on where we're at, that's where our reserves would come in to cover it or not. So we'll need to cover the increased annual cost over the next 6 months in our operating budget.
Okay, I'll see.
Thank you. Councillor Kingston, you didn't have a question, did you? Councillor Bourgeois.
Les services qui vont être fournis à partir de cet appel d'offres de proposition, nous appartenons maintenant à la bâtisse. Depuis, je ne sais pas trop quoi, une dizaine d'années, demi-douzaine d'années, quelque chose comme ça. Est-ce que ça, et avant, c'était appartenu par une compagnie privée, puis on payait un loyer? Ça fait, c'est pas nous autres qui s'occupaient des réparations, des rénovations majeures, rénovations mineures, oui. Mais là, on est rendu de la phase où on appartient, puis on a un fonds, puis on investit dans le fonds de réserve pour le centre-ville, l'hôtel-ville. Est-ce que ce contrat-là, cette compagnie qui va être embauchée pour faire ça, s'occupe des rénovations majeures ou au moins les identifier pour nous, ou est-ce qu'on a un autre service d'ingénierie spécialisé qui fait ça?
Merci, Conseiller Bourgeois. de ma connaissance du contrat, c'est cette compagnie qui identifierait les rénovations majeures, mais c'est nous qui serons responsables. Eux, ils sont juste responsables pour les rénovations mineures.
OK, mais moi, je dirais ça. Moi, je suis pas habilité pour dire, hey, il y a une craque dans le mur. Ça fait, il y a quelqu'un qui va regarder ça, la fondation, le toit, les fenêtres, de façon régulière, inspecter pour dire votre budget que vous avez mis de côté. Je sais pas moi ce que c'est pas important pour la discussion, mais disons que c'est un demi-million de dollars par année parce qu'en quelque temps, il y aura des rénovations majeures de 3 millions à faire, etc. Ça fait, c'est cette compagnie-là qui va suivre ça.
Je pense que ce que vous référez, c'est le Asset Management Program. Donc, on a nos équipes de facilities qui gardent un œil sur cet asset-là de la ville avec les différentes composantes, incluant les fenêtres, incluant la toiture, incluant le HVAC et tout ça. Donc, il y a plusieurs lentilles qui sont appliquées sur l'édifice. Ici, on parle vraiment du day-to-day, la continuation du contrat qu'on avait avec le fournisseur jusqu'à maintenant, puis qui couvre les petites réparations. Il y a une lumière de brûler, il y a une fuite sur un évier, puis on peut aller un peu plus haut jusqu'à 5 000 $ pour des petits projets là, en extra. Mais comme, mettons, en ce moment, on travaille sur le Council Chamber, on a des contrats, on pourrait avoir nos équipes à l'interne qui pourraient y travailler, mais c'est pas eux qui font, c'est trop gros comme projet. Mais quand vous référez sur la condition du bâtiment dans le futur, s'assurer que ça se garde en bon état, on a des équipes dans notre département de facilities qui gardent un œil sur les différentes composantes critiques.
OK. Ça, c'est pas la responsabilité de ce contrat-là, mais
non, mais si
identifie quelque chose.
On est content, n'importe qui peut identifier des problèmes qu'il pourrait y avoir dans l'édifice.
OK, merci beaucoup. Merci, Mme Lavant.
Excellent. Councillor Legier.
Oh, thank you. I'm just wondering, had we looked as well at whether or not it was feasible to have a full-time employee do this type of work?
Thank you for the question. So this unfortunately came a little bit more last minute than we would have wanted. The previous provider, I understand, changed its mind a little bit over the past 6 months or so, where we didn't have as much notice as we would have liked to be able to turn around. So with the results of these bids, we've had exactly that kind of thought for the future. Now, I believe this is a 2-year firm and a number of optional years thereafter. During that time, I think the team will do a better review and see if we could be providing internally a competitive option to this service. So we'll be like that.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item 10.6 is tender TC 24058, new cold storage dorm operations center. Motion before council is that Moncton City Council approve the award of tender TC 24058, new cold storage dome operations center to the lowest bidder meeting all terms and conditions and specifications, being Quantum Construction Maritime Limited, in the amount of $1,473,150, including HST at 15%. Furthermore, it is recommended that a contingency allowance in the amount of $25,000, including HST at 15%, be established for this project to address any unknown, unforeseen conditions which may require a construction change order.
Terrific. Moved by Councillor Legier, seconded by Councillor Butler. Any questions? On Councillor
Just
Legier.
quickly, how soon would the construction occur, and will it be available for in 2024?
Dawn is telling me they believe in August that would start, and we expect to have it available for us before the winter, like sometime in the fall.
Perfect. Thank you.
Terrific. On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item 10.7 is tender TCS 24066, supply and delivery of crushed stone, sand, and aggregate. Motion before council is that Moncton City Council approve the award of tender TCS 24066, supply and delivery of crushed stone, sand, and aggregates to the lowest bidder meeting the terms and conditions and specifications set out in the tender, being Gray Rock Materials, Inc., for the total estimated annual contract value of $192,264.48, including HST at 15% for a 1-year period, with the options to extend the agreement up to a maximum of 4 additional 12-month periods if it is in the city's best interest to do so.
Terrific. Is there someone who wishes to move this? Thank you, Councillor Steve, seconded by Councillor Kingston. Any questions? On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Award item 10.8 is award of city's contract number W24H07BD Trail Upgrades Number 1. The motion before council is that city contract number 24H07BD Trail Upgrades Number 1 be awarded to Modern Construction 1983 Limited in the amount of $1,373,615.20, including HST, and that the budget for the project be set at $1.4 million, including HST engineering and contingency. It is also recommended that a contract be drafted and the mayor and the city clerk be authorized to sign said contract and affix the corporate seal of the city of Moncton.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Legier, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Any questions?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead, Councillor Butler, then Councillor Bourgeois.
I have a problem with this because of the next one that's coming up. We're building trails and retaining walls when we're not fixing the streets and the traffic calming on Twin Oaks. So I would say that in the next one, in the next 10.9, you talk about is revising Ryan Street at Augusta because we have schools, Twin Oak Drive, Alyssa May, Twin Oak Drive and YMCA, Twin Oaks Drive and Tanglewood Drive, and down to Falcon. You know, we've had a number of issues there with students. One last spring getting hit by a vehicle because there's no markings on the street. We're trying to get some traffic calming up in that area in regards to Twin Oaks being so wide. I think it was meant to be another mountain road, but it turned out that it's a residential area and there's no markings. The crosswalks, I think there's 2, maybe 3 have crosswalk guards, but the rest don't. So I think before we start to get to the trails, which, I agree 100% with having trail, I think that we have to make sure that around the schools, around where students are walking on sidewalks and then having to get to schools, I think that we should be putting this, should not have to revise the second one to have this one. This one, if you wanted to, we could revise it, maybe put in a retainer wall or something like this, but I don't think the whole thing should be done. I think we should be making sure that the roads are safer first. So I won't be voting for this one because of that, unless we can make an amendment that some way there, maybe Rennie, you have idea how we could do this, but I would certainly say that we should be looking after Twin Oaks and Ryan Street with the amount of traffic and the issues we're having up there. So,
thank you, Your Worship. Through to Councillor Butler, I may add that the project that's in front of you has been planned and budgeted coming from the AT budget. And if we want to talk about the second one, that is a project that was unplanned and unbudgeted. So we've been, as Jacques mentioned, excuse me, this is one of the projects we've been scrambling to try to find some funds. But it is important to also note that projects that it is in front of you and those components do provide some sort of a safety component also to our cyclists and to our active transportation users. So traffic calming and AT network really go hand in hand. But that is something that we need to think about, is that this project here was planned and budgeted as well and approved by council
So
part of the expiration last year.
I'll say this again, is that, if it was, and it was awarded by council or was brought forward in the budget, it was long before we knew that we were going to do something on Twin Oaks. Twin Oaks and Ryan Street, we have to do something now. We have no, you and I had a conversation the other day. There's not even a middle line painted on Twin Oaks, west, so you call it in the report north, but I call it west of Evergreen. So there's no markings on that street. It's like if you went up there, it looks like a runway. And cars are coming down there at all different speeds. I know we've had talks about the speed limit up there, and I know, we're always keep saying, well, send it to the RCMP, send it to the RCMP. Well, we don't have a traffic unit. We have a number of kids, a large number of kids that are walking across Maplehurst at Twin Oaks. They're walking across that Blackstone and trying to get to the sidewalk on the other side so they can walk up. So, I mean, I don't know how maybe you have some type of an idea, or maybe Jock does, but you know, I would believe that the streets where people are driving, like I think on Twin Oaks in front of one house, I think in the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks, there was 2 accidents where a car run into another car parked on the side of the road. No markings, the lighting gets dark, is a little off there. So, I mean, I just don't see how we as council can say to ourselves, let's do a retaining wall and I agree that they're needed. I'm not saying they're not needed, but what I'm saying is your needs and your wants. We need the traffic calming on Twin Oaks and Ryan Street.
Thank you. Councillor Bourgeois.
Well, I was just going to say I understand 100% why you would vote against, if not this one. But we were discussing the next item and not this one. So if you want to vote against it, that's fine. And we'll continue the discussion about your specific concerns for item 10.9 after. But if we have a motion on 10.8, we got to discuss the motion on 10.8 first. I understand your opposition to it for that reason, but I don't think we should be discussing. So it's
Other people have kind of gone off on a little tangent tonight on their own, but anyway, sure.
No. You can explain why you are voting against it, but you can't start discussing. We'll just vote.
Okay, so we're on item.
And I'll support you on 10.9, but let's tackle 10.8 first.
So on item 10.8, any other questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Does the money that we're talking about at 10.8 come from the same place as the money we're talking about in 10.9?
Thank you, Your Worship, to Councillor Steves. So in the end, council is allowed to move monies from one place to the other. If we were to follow provincial regulations, black and white, normally the things need to be budgeted. It needs to be approved because there's a hearing with the Municipal Capital Borrowing Board or so on. And then because the public has the right to object to any project, regardless of what type of nature. That being said, in the end, we're still talking about the same amount of money. Through the funding that we found for these, we had to go and really, even because, not for this one, but for the next one coming up, because it was not approved, we had to kind of take our capital from operating.
But again, we're on item 10.8 right now.
So yes, in the end, monies can be transferred, but alternative solutions can be found as well.
All right, on item 10.8, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So was that 2 nay votes? Okay, Councillor Steves and Councillor Butler. Motion passes. On item 10.9, traffic calming.
10.9 is city contract number W24H07DX traffic calming Twin Oaks Drive. And the recommendation before council is that city contract number W24H07DX traffic calming Twin Oaks Drive be awarded to Modern Construction 1983 Limited in the amount of $488,261.25, including HST, and that the budget for the project be set at $485,000, including net HST, engineering, and contingency. It is also recommended that a contract be drafted and that the mayor and the city clerk be authorized to sign said contract and affix the corporate seal of Moncton thereto.
Moved by Councillor Leger, or?
Can I speak to it before? Because I think I can move it and then I can do an amendment. I'll move it.
Okay, is there a seconder for it? no seconder for it. Okay, thank you, Councillor Kingston. Back to you, Councillor Leger.
Thanks. So there's no doubt that all 5 of these specific identified areas are important. And so when I looked at the total cost of the project versus the negotiated reduction in scope, we're looking at less than $300,000 to have all 5 done. And so, or 6. Are there 6 or 5? Hang on.
Only 5.
5. Yeah, so to have the 5 done. So I would suggest then that is why we have a contingency fund. And I would, and this is really for safety. I think, Councillor Butler, you've talked about that so much. It's very congested. And so I would suggest that my first question as a staff would be, if we decided to go with the full scope of this project, are we able, do we know if the winning bid would go back and do all of the work for what was proposed by them?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, through Councillor Butler. Once you close a tender, then we do a post-tender addendum, and then we confirm if the winning bidder would like to proceed. In this case, we actually did the opposite. We asked if the bidder would be willing to do a reduced scope of work, and this is the recommendation in front of you.
But can we do the reverse? Can we go back to okay, so if we can do that, then I would suggest that that's what we do.
Alternative 2.
So I guess it's alternative 2, is it? Just a sec. And thank you, Councillor Butler. Did the city award the original scope of work as tendered to Modern Construction in the amount of $742,503.25, including HST, and that the total budget of the project be set at $740,000, including net HST, engineering, and contingency? And I think then it would satisfy. If I can make a comment, because I know we're going to do all these traffic calming. And I hope this is the last time that I actually have to say this, because I've been noticing that we put a lot of effort at crosswalks. We put a lot of effort on trying to notify. But why is it that every other municipality, so we have Dieppe, we have Shediac, I can't remember where I was the other day, they all have the ability to place in the middle of the street a device that sits this high, that you notice because it's in the middle of the street, right at the line, and it makes me as the driver aware that there is a crosswalk there in case I miss the fact that they turned the light on and I didn't see it. So can you please tell me why it is that we can't have those on our streets today? And I'll give you an example of one is St. George Street at the corner of Archibald and St. George. I saw somebody almost get killed the other day. And this is one that we know is problematic because it doesn't line up. So sorry if I sound a little emotional, but I just repeating, and maybe this is the last time I have to repeat it, and we could do that. Would they be available for our municipality, you think?
Yes, Councillor there. Since we're on repeating, we did send an update to council on the specific locations where we will be installing these. So these are actually prepared for St. George Boulevard.
So when are we going to see them? When am I going to see one on St. George Street?
I will have to talk to the team. I don't have that level of details. I'm sorry, Councillor Leger, but we are planning to start using them, these specific device that you just mentioned, and locations will be Shediac Road and St. George Boulevard for this year. And we hope that working through our operations team that we will increase that program and have more and more locations in the future.
So may I ask, maybe for a future meeting, what is getting in the way to be able to implement, let's say 30 of them this year, like around all our schools and all of the all the places? Is it a question of budget? We don't have enough money to buy enough of them to be able to install them. So anyway, for future meeting, because I'm concerned because they really are effective.
Yeah, I think they will be, Councillor Leger, and I think to answer your question, it's the purchasing of them. That's one thing. There's sometimes they're delayed material, but it's also the installation. We rely on our operations team to install them. So obviously, if we increase that program, we'll have to look at resources, and because they have to be taken out, installed, and sometimes taken out in the winter, depending on the location. So it's all part of the traffic calming program.
But I'm sure, and this is the end of it. I'm sure that if we can put all of the separators for the bike lanes on Von Harvey and on Killam Drive, that we certainly should be able to put 30 of these on crosswalks as well. So maybe something to look at. So thank you. Appreciate it.
So I understand that you've actually moved option number 2 now. Does the seconder, are you okay with that as well?
Option 2, that's been recommended.
That's what's been recommended, but you were the seconder for it. Are you okay with seconding that? Okay. All right, then. Councillor Bourgeois.
Merci, Madame le maire. Est-ce qu'on a des autorités d'emprunt adoptées, mais pas encore consommées, qu'on pourrait utiliser pour financer une partie de ces choses-là?
Merci, conseiller Bourgeois. Il faudra vérifier, donc peut-être, moi, je pense à pas mal, Hélène semble penser que oui. Donc, c'est quelque chose que dans les mêmes catégories. Donc, la motion pourrait être, si on revient à ce que le conseiller Légère a mentionné, qu'on trouve toute l'autorité de on-news qu'on peut, puis ensuite, si on a passé, on pourrait utiliser la council contingency pour le dernier 150 000 ou un overspend, ça c'est la direction du conseil.
Ouais. Je peux comprendre si vous n'avez pas l'information précise pour pouvoir alimenter ça, mais est-ce qu'on pourrait avoir une... Moi, j'aime bien la résolution numéro 2, là, sauf... c'est engineering contingency. Il y aurait une façon de dire qu'on prend ça en partie ou d'abord et avant tout par les autorités déjà adoptées et la balance à partir du council contingency. Moi, j'ai juste peur que ça soit...
Oui, non, c'est ce qu'on peut faire. Il y a une des choses qu'il faut faire attention avec l'autorité existante, le Unused Authority, parce que vraiment, nous autres, pour être sécures, il faut s'assurer qu'on ait fini pas mal tous les projets de l'année aussi. Donc, c'est quelque chose qu'on peut certainement, si la motion est faite comme ça, on pourra s'ajuster de cette façon.
Parce que le Conseil a déjà adopté ces demandes de financement-là. Vous l'avez soumis, ça a été adopté. On a un petit peu comme un pre-approved mortgage, comme tu l'appelles souvent. Ouais. Ça fait, on est capable d'aller chercher cet argent-là et la balance serait payée à partir du contingency du Conseil.
Exactement. Mais la seule chose qu'il faut quand même faire attention, c'est, disons par exemple qu'on a l'Unused Authority pour les routes puis la construction des rues. Il faut s'assurer que tous les projets des rues sont finis pour faire sûr qu'on n'a pas besoin de nouveaux, sinon c'est quelque chose qu'on peut certainement gérer.
Est-ce que ça, c'est suffisant comme directive ou est-ce qu'il faudrait que ce soit dans la résolution?
Jacques, do you have a preference there? I mean, I think we understand.
No, I think it's fine. If we have the unused authority, we'll use it for this project and not go in council. And we can also send a summary to council as well before we get to that point as well.
Merci, Madame la Maire.
Excellent. Sounds good. On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, reading of bylaws. The first 2 bylaws, council has provided me permission to give the readings. And as per the Local Governance Act, these will be placed on our website and they will be available for the public if they wish. So 11.1 is a bylaw and amendment, the City of Moncton zoning bylaw being bylaw Z 222.6.1 Eastgate. It's the first reading.
Eastgate Village.
Eastgate Village. First reading. Arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté de zonage de la ville de Moncton sur l'arrêté Z222.6.1 Eastgate Village, c'est la première lecture. 11.2 is a bylaw in amendment of the City of Moncton zoning bylaw being bylaw Z222.334 Curry Street, first reading. Arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté de zonage de la ville de Moncton sur l'arrêté Z222.33 4 rue Curry, c'est la première lecture. Actually, there's a first reading. The council has provided me access with 10.3. A bylaw relating to dangerous or unsightly premises and property in the city of Moncton being bylaw Z824, unsightly premises, first reading. Arrêté concernant les lieux et les biens dangereux ou inesthétiques dans la ville de Moncton sur l'arrêté Z824, c'est la première lecture. For the next two, I will require council's approval.
So for 11.4, the second reading of 1187 Shediac Road, moved by Councillor Legier, seconded by Councillor Kingston. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
A bylaw and amendment of the City of Moncton zoning bylaw being bylaw Z 222.34, rezoning at 1187 Shediac Road. This is a second reading. Arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté de zonage de la ville de Moncton sur l'arrêté Z 222.34, de zonage au 1187 chemin Shediac. I will require third reading.
Third reading, moved by Councillor Legier, seconded by Councillor Richard. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
A bylaw and amendment of the City of Moncton zoning bylaw being bylaw Z 222.34, rezoning at 1187 Shediac Road. It's a third reading. Arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté de zonage de la ville de Moncton sur l'arrêté Z 222.34, rezonage 1187 chemin Shediac. C'est la troisième lecture. 11.5, I will require.
Thank you. This is for 54 Maplewood. Is there someone who wishes to move this? Councillor Richard, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
A bylaw and amendment of the City of Moncton zoning bylaw being bylaws at 222.35, rezoning 54 Maplewood. It's a second reading. Arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté de zonage de la ville de Moncton sur l'arrêté Z 222.35, le zonage 54 Promenade Maplewood. C'est la deuxième lecture. Third reading.
Third reading, moved by
Go ahead.
Councillor Butler, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
A bylaw and amendment of the City of Moncton zoning bylaw being bylaw Z 222.35, rezoning 54 Maplewood Drive. This is the third reading. Arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté de zonage de la ville de Moncton sur l'arrêté Z 222.35, de zonage au 54 Promenade Maplewood. C'est la troisième lecture.
There are no appointments, but while she wasn't on the agenda a huge amount tonight, and I'm sure she's breathing a great sigh of relief for that, this is the last public session for the one and only Lorianne Hansen. It's been quite a career, and I'm sure you're relieved that you weren't on the agenda tonight. But thank you for everything, Lorianne. Really.
Say a couple words. We'd like to hear from you.
Speech. It's not on the agenda, but yes.
Oh, it's on. Yes, and working in corporate services, I'm usually a lot of times relieved that we keep issues off of the public agenda and we keep them internal to the City of Moncton. But it is, I want to thank you all too for, working with me over the years. It's been 34. It's time, I guess, to move on to another phase of life, but it is going to be an odd time not being a city employee and being a resident of Moncton and observing what's going on in the city. But I'm sure I'll still offer feedback in one way or another. And anyway, I want to thank you again for it being a great ride and a great journey throughout the years. So it's been a pleasure to work for the city, and I'm an awful proud City of Moncton employee.
Well, it's been a pretty, congratulations on 34 awesome years, really. I would now take a motion to adjourn. Councillor Richard, thank you. Thank you.